Hello and welcome back to another evening of shared stories and dark corners. Tonight we are going deep. Really deep. We are diving into the world of Dexter Morgan, and specifically, we are going to talk about the villains, the killers, the antagonists that made his double life such a dangerous tightrope to walk for nearly a decade of television, and then some. Now, if you are settling in for the night, you picked a good one. We will be here for a while. I am going to cover every major antagonist across the entire Dexter franchise, starting from Season 1 all the way through to Dexter New Blood, and even a bit of Dexter Original Sin. That is 10 seasons worth of villains, backstories, confrontations, and dark psychology. So get comfortable, adjust your pillow, maybe pull the covers up a little. This one is going to keep you company for a good long stretch. The plan is straightforward. We will start with the ice truck killer from Season 1, then work our way through every major villain season by season. Along the way, I will throw in all the details, backstories, and personal thoughts I can, because honestly, this show gave us some of the most fascinating antagonists in television history, and I think they deserve the full treatment. Before we jump in though, let me give you a quick bit of context for anyone who might be new to the world of Dexter, or who just needs a refresher after all these years. Dexter Morgan is a blood spatter analyst working for the Miami Metro Homicide Department. By day, he helps the police solve murders. He examines crime scenes, analyzes the patterns that blood makes when violence occurs, and writes up reports. He is good at his job. Very good, actually. But by night, Dexter Morgan is a serial killer. Now that sounds like the setup for a horror movie, and in a lot of ways it is. But the brilliance of the show is that it makes you root for him, because Dexter does not kill randomly. His adoptive father, Harry Morgan, was a police detective who recognized Dexter's dark urges when he was just a kid. And instead of turning him in or locking him away, Harry made a controversial decision. He trained Dexter. He gave him a set of rules to follow, what the show calls the Code of Harry. Rule number 1, don't get caught. And the most important guideline of all, only kill people who deserve it. People who have killed others and escaped justice through the cracks in the legal system. So Dexter operates as this strange kind of vigilante. He does his homework, he researches his targets, he confirms they're guilty beyond any shadow of doubt, and then he wraps them in plastic on a table, takes a single drop of their blood on a glass slide as a trophy, and kills them. The bodies get chopped up and dumped in the ocean. The blood slides go into a wooden box hidden in his air conditioner, and the next morning, Dexter shows up to work with donuts for the department like nothing happened. It is dark stuff, obviously. But the show, which ran from 2006 to 2013 on Showtime and was developed by James Manos Jr. from Jeff Lindsay's novel series, absolutely captivated audiences. At its peak, it was one of the most talked about shows on television, and one of the biggest reasons it worked so well was its villains. Because here is the thing about Dexter's antagonists that separates them from the bad guys on most other shows. They are not just obstacles. Every single major villain across the run of the series functions as a kind of dark mirror for Dexter himself. They reflect back at him different versions of what he could become if he lost control, abandoned the code, or simply got unlucky. Some of them are worse than Dexter, some of them are better at hiding than Dexter, and a few of them understand Dexter more deeply than anyone else in his life ever could. That is what makes them so compelling, and that is what makes tonight's deep dive worth doing properly. If you enjoy this kind of content and want to support the channel, consider subscribing. But for now, settle in, maybe dim the lights a little, and let us begin with the very first villain Dexter ever encountered on screen. A man who knew Dexter better than Dexter knew himself. His own brother. Now I should mention before we jump in that I will be going through these villains chronologically, season by season, which means we are starting with the original series and working our way forward through the timeline. Each villain gets the full treatment. Their backstory, their methods, their psychology, their relationship with Dexter, and their ultimate fate. I am not rushing through any of them. This is a sleep video after all. We have time, and these characters deserve the patience. I also want to say that while I will try to be as accurate as possible with the details, pulling from the actual episodes and the source material, I will also be sharing my own thoughts and opinions along the way, because I think one of the joys of doing a deep dive like this is not just recounting what happened, but talking about why it mattered, what it meant for the characters, what it meant for the show, and sometimes what it meant for me personally, as someone who has watched this series more times than I am willing to admit. Alright, let us get started. Take a deep breath, relax your shoulders, and let the story carry you wherever it wants to go. Season 1 of Dexter opens with the city of Miami in the grip of a serial killer that the press has dubbed the Ice Truck Killer. And right from the very first episode, this case is different from anything Miami Metro Homicide has dealt with before. The killer is targeting sex workers, which unfortunately is not unusual in crime fiction, or in the real world for that matter. But what makes this particular killer stand out is not who he targets, it is how he does it. He is dismembering these women with surgical precision. Every single cut is clean, deliberate, almost artistic. He drains every last drop of blood from their bodies until they are completely bloodless. And then he arranges the body parts in public places around Miami, limbs left at ice rinks, torsos placed at intersections like some kind of gruesome art installation, a head found at a beach, everything wrapped in clean plastic, everything perfectly preserved. And that last detail, the complete absence of blood, is what hooks Dexter's attention from the very beginning. You have to understand, Dexter deals with blood every single day. His entire career revolves around reading the patterns blood makes when violence occurs. The direction of the spatter, the velocity, the angle of impact. So when he walks into a crime scene and there is no blood at all, he is fascinated, genuinely fascinated. He describes it almost like admiration. This killer understands blood the way Dexter does, maybe even better. And the presentation of the body parts, these neatly wrapped packages appearing around the city, feels to Dexter like it is aimed directly at him. Like someone out there is trying to get his attention, like someone is leaving gifts. The police, of course, are chasing leads in every direction. Lieutenant Maria LaGuerta, who is ambitious and media savvy and always looking for the angle that puts her in front of cameras, pushes the investigation early on toward a security guard named Tony Tucci. Tucci has gone missing from an ice hockey stadium where one of the victims was found, and LaGuerta is convinced he is either involved or he is the killer himself. Captain Tom Matthews backs her play because the department needs results and the media pressure is intense. But Tucci turns out to be a victim, not a perpetrator. The ice truck killer has been holding him captive. When Tucci is finally found, he is alive, but in horrific condition. His hand has been amputated, his leg has been removed at the knee. He was left at an abandoned hospital in a setup that feels designed specifically for Dexter to find. The positioning of the body, the location, the surgical precision of the amputations. This is not random violence, this is communication. The ice truck killer is talking to Dexter, and Dexter can hear him loud and clear. As the season progresses, the messages become more personal and more invasive. Dexter comes home one night to find doll parts arranged inside his freezer. Not just any doll parts, parts that mirror the way the ice truck killer displays his victims. The killer has been inside Dexter's apartment. He has studied Dexter's belongings. He has learned his habits. At another point, smiley faces appear drawn on Dexter's blood slides, the trophies that Dexter keeps hidden. The killer knows about the slides. He knows about the ritual. He knows about all of it. This is not a serial killer operating in a vacuum. This is someone who knows Dexter Morgan intimately and is playing an elaborate, deeply personal game with him. And here is what makes it even more unsettling. Dexter enjoys it. Not in an abstract way. He genuinely enjoys the cat and mouse game. There is a moment where the police bring in a man named Neil Perry, a taxidermist who confesses to being the ice truck killer. Lagerta and Captain Matthews are thrilled. They hold a press conference. They want to close the case and move on. But when Dexter visits Neil in custody and looks into his eyes, he knows immediately that this man is a fraud, a copycat at best. Because Neil does not recognize Dexter at all. He does not react to Dexter the way the real killer would. And Dexter actually smiles when he realizes the killer is still out there. It is one of the most quietly unsettling moments in the entire first season. You're watching the protagonist of this show be relieved that a serial killer is still at large, because the game is too interesting to let it end with a false confession. Now, while all of this is happening, there is a subplot weaving through the season that initially seems completely separate from the ice truck killer investigation. Deborah Morgan, Dexter's adoptive sister, is a detective working vice. She is tough, foul-mouthed, insecure in her career, but brilliant at her job. And she starts dating a guy named Rudy Cooper. Rudy is a prosthetics specialist. He is charming and attentive. He gets along with everyone at the department. He makes a wonderful impression on Dexter, who rarely gives his approval to any of Deborah's boyfriends. Rudy even contributes to the investigation in small ways, casually offering insights about how the killer might use certain surgical tools, how an electric chainsaw could explain the precision of the dismemberment cuts. Dexter finds these observations helpful, which makes sense because Rudy seems to have a genuine understanding of how bodies come apart. But as the season moves into its second half, the alarm bells start going off. Angel Batista, one of the detectives at Miami Metro, gets stabbed in a parking garage by an unknown assailant and notices something important. He left bite marks on his attacker's face during the struggle. Around the same time, Rudy Cooper shows up with a split lip that he explains away with a casual story about bumping into a door. The timing is suspicious. Dexter, whose instincts are sharper than almost anyone else on the show, starts running mental calculations. He does blood work. He connects dots that nobody else at the department is connecting, partly because nobody else is looking at Rudy with suspicion. And then comes the devastating reveal that changes the entire trajectory of the series. Rudy Cooper is not who he says he is. His real name is Brian Moser, and he is Dexter's biological brother. The backstory here is absolutely heartbreaking, and it is essential to understanding not just this villain, but the entire Dexter franchise from beginning to end. So let me walk through it carefully. When Dexter was 3 years old, he and his older brother Brian were inside a shipping container at the port of Miami with their mother, Laura Moser. Laura was a confidential informant for the police, specifically for Detective Harry Morgan. She had been feeding Harry information about a drug cartel operated by a man named Santos Jimenez. It was dangerous work, and the cartel eventually found out. 3 men entered that shipping container and attacked Laura Moser with a chainsaw. They butchered her right there in front of her 2 young sons. Let me just sit with that for a second. 2 boys, one barely more than a toddler, and the other maybe 5 or 6 years old, watched their mother get cut apart with a power tool. And then they sat in that container for 2 days. 2 full days, surrounded by her blood, sitting in pools of it, unable to leave, unable to process what they had seen, just existing in the aftermath of the worst thing imaginable. When Harry Morgan finally found them, he made a choice that would define the rest of both boys' lives. He adopted Dexter, the younger one, the one who was small enough that maybe, just maybe, the memories could be buried deep enough to not surface. But Harry left Brian behind. Brian was older. Brian had already been assessed as showing signs of severe psychological damage. He was sent into the foster care system, then eventually transferred to a mental institution where he was diagnosed with the antisocial personality disorder. He was supposed to receive treatment. He was supposed to get better. Brian was released at age 21, officially declared cured by the institution. But of course, Brian was not cured. He had simply learned to imitate normal behavior well enough to fool the people evaluating him. He had learned to wear a mask. Sound familiar? Because that is exactly what Dexter does every single day of his life. The same survival strategy, developed independently by two brothers who experienced the same trauma, but were given wildly different tools to deal with it. Brian came to Miami with one purpose in mind. He wanted to reconnect with the little brother he had lost. But Brian Moser does not connect with people through conversation or letters or family reunions. He connects through the thing that defines him, through killing. The Ice Truck Killer's entire campaign, every victim, every bloodless tableau, every carefully placed body part and carefully arranged message was Brian's way of reaching out to Dexter. It was all one long love letter written in flesh and bone. The bloodless crime scenes were Brian saying, "I understand blood the way you do." The surgical precision was Brian saying, "I have skills that mirror yours." The messages left in Dexter's apartment were Brian saying, "I have been watching you, and I see what you really are." And the escalating gifts were Brian saying, "I am your brother, and I want you to come home to me." Think about how extraordinary that is. Brian did not come to Miami to destroy Dexter. He came to recruit him. He came to show Dexter that there was someone else in the world who understood exactly what it was like to grow up shaped by that shipping container. Someone who knew the darkness firsthand because he had been born in the same blood. The climax of Season 1 is one of the tensest sequences in the show's history. Brian, still posing as Rudy Cooper, proposes to Deborah on a boat. When circumstances conspire to reveal his true identity, Brian kidnaps Deborah. He takes her back to the very same shipping container where their mother was killed all those years ago. He wraps Deborah in plastic sheeting, just like Dexter wraps his own victims. And then he presents Dexter with a choice. Kill Deborah, shed the fake life that Harry built for you. Abandon the code, the job, the pretend relationships, all of it, and come be your true self with me. Be my brother for real. Let the darkness breathe, or save Deborah, protect the lie, keep wearing Harry's mask, and stay alone in the world, connected to people who will never truly know what you are. Here is what I think is so powerful about this moment. Brian is not entirely wrong. He sees through Dexter's act more clearly than anyone else in the entire series. He knows that Dexter's relationships with Rita, with his co-workers, with the people at Miami Metro, it is all performance, a carefully practiced mask that Harry Morgan trained him to wear since childhood. Brian can see past the mask because he grew up in the same darkness. He is offering Dexter the one thing that nobody else in the world can offer him: genuine understanding. The only person alive who truly knows what Dexter went through as a child, what it made him, and what it means to carry that weight every single day. There is absolutely a version of this story where Dexter says yes, where he takes Brian's hand, abandons the code, abandons Deborah, and walks away into a life of unrestricted killing. Some fans have argued that would have been the more honest choice for the character, and I think they have a point. Brian is not asking Dexter to become something he is not. He is asking Dexter to stop pretending to be something he is not. But Dexter refuses. He tackles Brian and saves Deborah just before the police arrive, led by the trail of clues he quietly left behind. Brian escapes the shipping container, but is not captured immediately. And this is where the emotional weight of the season really hits its peak. Dexter later sets a trap at his own apartment. He knows Brian will come back. He knows Brian cannot resist the pull of wanting to finish what he started. And sure enough, Brian breaks in, intent on killing Deborah and forcing Dexter's hand once and for all. But Dexter is waiting. He strangles Brian unconscious, transports him to Brian's own apartment, and strings him up in a recreation of how Brian displayed his victims. And then comes one of the most emotionally devastating scenes in the entire run of the series. Brian, hanging there helpless, makes one final attempt to convince Dexter to see things his way. He tells Dexter that he is choosing a lie over the truth, that he is choosing people who will never really know him over the one person who does, that every day Dexter spends wearing Harry's mask is a day spent in a prison, just as real as any institution Brian was locked in. And the thing is, there are tears in Brian's eyes, real tears. For a character who's been diagnosed as incapable of genuine emotion, it is a remarkable moment. Brian Moser loves his brother, in the only way he knows how, which happens to involve murder and body parts, but the love is real. Dexter, his own eyes filling with tears, whispers, "I can't hear you anymore," and he slits Brian's throat. He stages it to look like a suicide, and then Dexter collapses onto the floor, and he cries. I want to stay with that scene for a moment because I think it tells you everything you need to know about why the Dexter franchise worked as well as it did. On paper, you are watching one serial killer murder another serial killer. That should not make you emotional. But the writing, the performances, the history behind these two characters, it all comes together to create something genuinely heartbreaking. Dexter kills his own brother to protect the life Harry built for him. He chooses the mask over the man underneath it. He chooses the code over freedom. And in doing so, he proves something that the show will spend the next 7 seasons testing over and over again. Dexter is capable of something resembling love. It might not look the way love looks for most people, but it is there, and it is real enough to make him kill his own blood to protect someone else's. Brian Moser, the ice truck killer, works so beautifully as a first-season villain because he is not just a threat to Dexter's safety. He is a threat to Dexter's entire identity. He represents the path not taken. He is Dexter Morgan without Harry's intervention, without the code, without the guardrails. He is living proof that the darkness Dexter carries could have expressed itself in a completely unrestrained way if circumstances had been just slightly different. And killing him is the most important decision Dexter makes in the entire first season, because it sets the template for everything that follows. Every time, Dexter chooses the code over his instincts. Every time he protects someone instead of indulging himself. Every time he puts on the mask and goes to work and pretends to be normal. It all traces back to that apartment, to those tears, and to the brother he left dead on the floor. One more thing worth mentioning before we move on. Brian Moser makes a brief but fascinating return in Season 6. Not as a living character, obviously, but as a hallucination. You see, throughout the series, Dexter regularly sees and converses with the ghost of Harry Morgan, who acts as his moral compass, reminding him of the code and warning him when he's about to make a mistake. But after the death of Brother Sam, a reformed gang member turned pastor who had genuinely befriended Dexter, something snaps. Dexter temporarily rejects Harry's ghost and instead starts hallucinating Brian. And this version of Brian encourages Dexter to kill without rules, to abandon the code entirely, to stop filtering his urges through Harry's restrictions and just be himself. It is a fascinating little arc because it shows that even years after his death, Brian's influence still lingers in Dexter's mind. The temptation of the path not taken never fully goes away. Dexter eventually rejects Brian's hallucination and returns to the code, but not before going on a reckless spree that gets uncomfortably close to Brian's way of doing things. It is a reminder that the darkness Brian represented was always just beneath the surface, waiting for a crack in the armour. And speaking of cracks in the armour, let us move forward now to Season 2. Because if Season 1 was about Dexter's past catching up to him, Season 2 is about his present threatening to unravel. And it does so through one of the most stressful and brilliantly constructed plots the show ever produced, combined with what might be the most dangerously unpredictable person Dexter ever encountered. A British artist named Lila West Here is what happens at the beginning of Season 2. A group of treasure hunters, just recreational divers, looking for sunken ships and old artifacts, stumble upon something in the waters of the bay off the coast of Miami. Trash bags. Dozens and dozens of black trash bags sitting on the ocean floor. And when those bags are brought to the surface and opened, what is inside them is unmistakable. Dismembered body parts, wrapped in plastic, preserved in a way that suggests they have been down there for years. Some of the remains are relatively fresh. Some have been decomposing on the ocean floor for a very long time. Dexter's dumping ground has been discovered. This is the nightmare scenario. For 8 years, Dexter has been killing people, chopping them up, putting the pieces into bags, and dropping those bags off the side of his boat into the same stretch of ocean. It was his system. It was reliable. It was hidden. And now, because of a random group of divers on a weekend excursion, everything is floating to the surface in the most literal way possible. The press goes absolutely wild with the story. They dub the unknown killer the Bay Harbor Butcher, and it becomes the biggest criminal investigation in Miami's history. The FBI sends Special Agent Frank Lundy to lead the task force. Lundy is the opposite of flashy. He is quiet, methodical, brilliant in a way that does not announce itself. And he is exactly the kind of investigator you do not want picking through your crimes. He works slowly, he builds cases from the ground up, and he does not miss details. And Dexter, the actual Bay Harbor Butcher, is sitting right there in the homicide department the entire time, processing his own crime scenes, analysing evidence that he himself created, sitting in briefings where Lundy describes the killer's psychology, his methods, his patterns, and getting every single detail right. Because of course he does. The killer is sitting 3 chairs away, eating a jelly donut. Now, Season 2 is unique in the Dexter villain lineup, because technically, Dexter himself is the villain being hunted. The big bad of this season is not a serial killer. It is the investigation, and the person who comes closest to unraveling the whole thing is not Frank Lundy. It is Sergeant James Dokes. Dokes deserves a real moment here, because he is one of the most important and most tragic figures in the entire show's mythology. Sergeant James Dokes is a former Special Operations soldier. He served in the military, saw combat, and killed people in the line of duty. That experience left marks on him, and it also gave him an extraordinary ability to read other human beings. Some people call it intuition. Whatever you want to call it, Dokes has it in abundance. And from the very first episode of the very first season, he senses that something is profoundly wrong with Dexter Morgan. He cannot articulate exactly what it is, not at first, but there is something about the way Dexter smiles that does not reach his eyes, something about the way Dexter reacts to crime scenes with clinical detachment instead of the normal range of human emotion, something in the way Dexter carries himself that triggers every alarm bell Dokes has ever developed in his years of reading dangerous people. And Dokes does not let it go. He follows Dexter. He confronts Dexter in hallways and parking lots. He breaks into Dexter's apartment looking for evidence. His famous catchphrase, which I am sure you've heard even if you have never watched the show, became one of the most iconic lines in television history. The thing about Dokes that makes him so compelling and so tragic is that he is completely right about everything. His instincts are flawless. His conclusions are accurate. Dexter Morgan is exactly the monster that Dokes senses him to be. But nobody believes Dokes. His colleagues think he is paranoid, obsessive, that he has a personal vendetta against a weird lab guy. LaGuerta tells him to back off. The investigation goes in other directions, and Dokes is left screaming into a void, the only person in law enforcement with the correct answer and absolutely no way to prove it. Dokes eventually tracks Dexter to a cabin in the Everglades. This cabin is where Dexter has been going to deal with some personal business involving Santos Jimenez, one of the 3 men who murdered his mother in that shipping container all those years ago. Dokes follows Dexter there, confronts him with a gun, and there is a physical altercation that ends with Dexter gaining the upper hand. Dexter locks Dokes in a cage inside the cabin, and now we have a situation where the only person who knows the truth about Dexter is locked in a cage in the middle of the Florida swamp, and the clock is ticking because eventually someone will notice that Dokes is missing. And that is exactly when the real villain of Season 2 walks into the picture. Lila West. Dexter meets Lila at a Narcotics Anonymous meeting. The circumstances that bring him there are a lie, which is very on brand for Dexter Morgan. To cover up his increasingly suspicious behaviour, his late nights and disappearances and mood swings, Dexter has told his girlfriend Rita that he is struggling with a drug addiction. It is not true, obviously. His addiction is killing, but it gives him a convenient excuse to be out at odd hours and to act erratically without raising the kinds of questions that could lead somewhere dangerous. So he attends NA meetings as part of his cover. At one of these meetings, he encounters Lila Tourney, who later goes by Lila West. She is British, she is an artist, she is intense and magnetic, and she takes an immediate, almost obsessive interest in Dexter and his so-called addiction. Lila becomes Dexter's NA sponsor, which gives her a built-in reason to spend time with him, to call him at all hours, and to insert herself into his life in ways that quickly move beyond the boundaries of a normal sponsor relationship. On the surface, Lila is beautiful and empathetic and passionate about art and recovery and emotional truth. She pushes Dexter to confront his past in ways that actually help him. She takes him to Naples, Florida, where Santos Jimenez is running a bar. Dexter confronts the man who helped murder his mother, and it is genuinely cathartic, even though the encounter does not end the way either of them planned. But underneath the surface, Lila is something else entirely. She is an arsonist. She burned down a building with her ex-boyfriend inside it. She has no real emotions of her own, but she is brilliant at mimicking them, which makes her one of the most convincingly normal seeming people in the show, while simultaneously being one of the most dangerous. She is, in many ways, the female version of Dexter. Same emotional emptiness, same ability to wear a mask that fools everyone around her, but without the code, without Harry's guardrails, without any framework for directing the darkness productively. Lila is what happens when Dexter's specific combination of traits manifests in someone with absolutely no boundaries. The relationship between Dexter and Lila is complicated in ways that feel genuinely real despite the extreme circumstances. Dexter initially approaches the whole thing as a manipulation. He needs a cover story. She is a convenient prop, but Lila sees through his mask faster than almost anyone else in the show. She recognizes the emptiness in him because she shares it. There is a scene at the aquarium that I think about every time someone asks me what my favorite Dexter moment is. Dexter tells Lila that the two of them are the same, that they are emotionally colorblind, that they know all the words, but they cannot hear the music. It is one of the most honestly spoken moments in the entire series, and it is said to a woman who is probably the most dangerous person Dexter has ever been romantically involved with. As the season progresses, Lila's behaviour escalates dramatically. When Dexter tries to end things between them and go back to Rita, Lila does not take it well. She sets fire to her own loft in an attempt to get his attention through a manufactured crisis. She starts showing up at Rita's house, inserting herself into Dexter's family life in ways that are possessive and threatening. She alienates Rita, frightens the children, and generally makes herself impossible to ignore. When that does not work, Lila turns vicious. She falsely accuses Angel Batista, one of the detectives at Miami Metro, and one of the genuinely good people on the show, of sexually assaulting her. Angel is temporarily suspended. His reputation is damaged. It is a deeply cruel move, and it reveals the extent to which Lila will go to maintain control over her surroundings and the people in them. But the defining moment of Lila's arc, the thing that cements her as one of the most consequential characters in the entire franchise, happens at the cabin in the Everglades. Remember, Dokes is still locked in a cage out there. Lila, through a series of events involving a stolen GPS device from Dexter's car, manages to track the signal and finds the cabin. She walks in and discovers a police sergeant imprisoned in a cell in the middle of the swamp. And Dokes, desperate, tells her the truth. Dexter Morgan is the Bay Harbor Butcher. He is a serial killer. Everything you think you know about him is a lie. Now, any reasonable person would react to this information with horror. They would free Dokes, they would call the police, they would run. But Lila's reaction is the opposite of reasonable, and it is the moment that defines her character completely. She does not recoil in horror. She does not free Dokes. Instead, she sympathizes with Dexter. She feels for him. She thinks about how difficult it must be to carry such an enormous secret, to live your entire life pretending to be something you are not. And then she makes a decision that will haunt the rest of the series. Lila turns on the gas stove. She opens the valve on a propane tank. She creates a spark, and she blows the entire cabin to pieces with Dokes still inside. James Dokes, the only person in law enforcement who correctly identified Dexter Morgan as a killer, dies in an explosion caused by a woman who thought she was helping her soulmate. The police arrive and find Dokes' remains, along with the dismembered body parts from Dexter's kills. The FBI, including Frank Lundy himself, is forced to conclude that Dokes was the Bay Harbor Butcher all along, that he had been hiding the evidence in the cabin, that the explosion was either an accident or a deliberate attempt to destroy the evidence. The case is closed. Dexter is free, and an innocent man's legacy is destroyed. I want to pause here because Dokes' death is one of the great tragedies of the show. He was right about everything. His instincts, his suspicions, his conclusions. All of it was correct, and he died for it. His memorial service is sparsely attended. The department he gave his career to remembers him as a serial killer. Only Laguerta, his former partner and closest friend, refuses to accept the narrative. She grieves privately and harbours doubts that will resurface seasons later in a devastating way. But Lila is not finished yet. When Dexter refuses to run away with her and start a new life together, she retaliates one final time. She kidnaps Rita's children, Asta and Cody. She locks them inside her loft and sets the building on fire. Dexter arrives just in time. The children escape through a small window. Dexter smashes through a wall to get them out. It is a close call that underscores just how reckless and dangerous Lila truly is. She was willing to murder 2 innocent children to get revenge on a man who rejected her. Lila flees the country after the fire. She goes to Paris thinking she is safe across an ocean. But Dexter follows her. He tracks her to her apartment in France, and in what becomes the show's first international kill, he finds her and stabs her in the heart. There is no plastic wrap, no bloodslide, no ritual, just a clean, final act of justice, or at least whatever Dexter's version of justice looks like. What makes Lila such a fascinating villain is that her motivation is not power or money or ideology. It is not even revenge, though revenge plays a part in her final acts. Lila's driving force is a desperate, consuming need for connection with someone who is as empty as she is. She looks at Dexter and sees a kindred spirit, someone who understands what it means to feel nothing and have to fake everything. In her twisted way, she loves him. Or at least she loves the idea of him. She loves the version of herself that she can be around someone who does not judge her emptiness, because he shares it. And Dexter sees himself in Lila, which is exactly why she terrifies him. Because Lila, without any code, without any Harry, without any framework for directing her impulses, is what unrestrained darkness actually looks like. She is chaos in human form. And Dexter understands on a very deep level that without the code, he would be just like her. That possibility is what makes Lila so dangerous to him, not just physically, but existentially. Season 2 is also the season that establishes something that will echo through the rest of the series. The idea that Dexter's secret, his true nature, is a kind of poison that destroys everyone it touches. Dokes is dead. His reputation is ruined forever, and the man who gave his career to protecting Miami will be remembered in the history books as its most prolific serial killer. Lila is dead, killed in a Parisian apartment by a man who crossed an ocean to finish what she started. Rita was nearly killed when Lila set the loft on fire, and even though she survived physically, the psychological damage of that night, of knowing her children were in a burning building because of someone connected to Dexter, will linger. Angel Batista was falsely accused of a crime he did not commit, and even though the charges were eventually dropped, that kind of accusation leaves a stain on a man's reputation that never fully washes out. Even Frank Lundy, the brilliant FBI agent who spent months building a meticulous case, walks away from Miami having been forced to close that case with the wrong answer. The Bay Harbor Butcher investigation ends not with justice, but with a convenient lie. And the only person who benefits from all of it is Dexter Morgan. That is a pattern that will repeat itself in increasingly devastating ways as the seasons go on. Every person who steps into Dexter's orbit pays a price for being there. Some pay with their careers, some pay with their reputations, some pay with their sanity, and the unlucky ones pay with their lives. It is the great unspoken truth of the Dexter franchise that the real body count is not the criminals on the table. It is the innocent people standing too close to the man holding the knife. But for now, let us move forward. Because Season 3 introduces something Dexter has never experienced before. Something that turns out to be even more dangerous than a British arsonist or a dead brother in a shipping container. Season 3 is the season where Dexter tries to make a friend. And as you might imagine, it goes terribly, terribly wrong. Miguel Prado is the Assistant District Attorney of Miami. He is everything Dexter is not in public. Charismatic, confident, well-connected, beloved in the Cuban-American community, politically ambitious, the kind of man who walks into a room and everyone turns to look because he just has that energy about him. Jimmy Smits plays the role with such genuine warmth and likability that you want to trust Miguel. You want to believe in him, and that is exactly the point. That is how he gets you. The relationship between Dexter and Miguel begins with an accident. Early in Season 3, Dexter is tracking a drug dealer named Freebo. Freebo has killed Miguel's younger brother, Oscar Prado, and Miguel has been on a private crusade to find him. The two men end up at Freebo's hideout at the same time, through completely different paths, and Dexter kills Freebo in what was supposed to be a clean, private operation. But when he emerges from the building holding a bloody knife, Miguel is standing right there. This should be the end of everything. A prosecutor has just witnessed Dexter Morgan standing over a dead body with a weapon in his hand. In any normal show, this would lead to an arrest, a trial, a prison sentence. But Dexter is not a normal show, and Miguel Prado is not a normal prosecutor. Instead of calling the police, Miguel hugs Dexter. He thanks him. Because Freebo killed Oscar, and now Freebo is dead, and Miguel sees this as justice being served in the only way that matters. He does not care about due process in this moment. He does not care about the law he swore to uphold. He cares that the man who murdered his brother is gone, and the man standing in front of him made it happen. From this moment, a genuine bond begins to form between Dexter and Miguel, and for Dexter, it is something entirely new. This is not a romantic relationship like he has with Rita, where he has to constantly perform normalcy. This is not a family obligation like he has with Debra, where the love is real, but the secrets are heavy. This is friendship. Real, honest, mutual friendship with a person who knows at least part of what Dexter truly is and does not flinch from it. They spend time together. They go fishing on Dexter's boat. They play golf. Miguel confides in Dexter about his frustrations with the justice system, how killers walk free because of technicalities, how defense attorneys twist the truth to protect their clients, how the whole system sometimes feels rigged against the people it is supposed to protect. And Dexter listens, and he feels understood, and for the first time in his life, he starts to believe that he might not have to be alone in his darkness. Dexter decides to test the friendship. He and Miguel target a man named Clemson Galt, an Aryan Brotherhood leader who is serving time for armed robbery, but who ordered the murders of a defector's wife and 3 young children. The plan requires breaking Galt out of prison, which is risky and complicated, and the kind of thing that would make any rational person think twice. Dexter expects Miguel to hesitate. He expects Miguel to say, "This is too much. I cannot do this. I am an officer of the court." But Miguel does not hesitate. He dives in eagerly. And after they kill Galt together, Miguel's reaction is not guilt or relief or any of the complicated emotions a normal person might feel after taking a human life for the first time. His reaction is excitement. He tells Dexter it felt fantastic. That should be a red flag. And Dexter recognizes it as one, but he ignores it. He is too excited about having a companion, too grateful for the connection, too relieved at the thought that maybe he does not have to carry this weight entirely by himself. And that willingness to overlook the warning signs is what makes Season 3 so painful to watch, because you can see the disaster coming from a mile away. As the season moves forward, the cracks in Miguel Prado's facade begin to widen. Miguel starts pushing to expand their work together. He identifies a new target, a defense attorney named Ellen Wolf. Ellen is aggressive, successful, and she has gotten several of Miguel's cases dismissed on technicalities. Miguel hates her. He wants her gone. But Ellen Wolf has not killed anyone. She is an attorney doing her job. She does not fit the code, and Dexter says so. Ellen Wolf is not what we do, Dexter tells him. She is not a killer. But Miguel does not care about the code. He never cared about the code. For Miguel Prado, this was never about justice. It was always about power. The killing, the partnership with Dexter, all of it was about having the ability to remove people who stood in his way. And Dexter, for all his intelligence and instinct, did not see it because he wanted the friendship too badly. The moment Dexter realizes he has been played is one of the most devastating personal betrayals in the entire series. Earlier in the season, Miguel had given Dexter a gift, a shirt stained with what Miguel claimed was Freebo's blood, presented as a gesture of mutual trust. You have something on me, and I have something on you. We are bound together. Dexter kept the shirt as proof of their bond, but when Dexter finally runs a test on the blood, the results hit him like a freight train. It is not Freebo's blood. It is not even human blood. It is cow's blood. Miguel faked the entire thing. The gesture of trust was a lie from the start. Miguel has been manipulating Dexter from day one, maintaining plausible deniability while using Dexter as a weapon to remove his enemies. Miguel goes on to murder Ellen Wolf on his own, without Dexter's knowledge or approval. He strangles her in her home and leaves the body. And when Dexter confronts him about it, Miguel drops the mask entirely. On a rooftop, with the Miami skyline behind them, Miguel screams at Dexter, "I will do what I want, when I want, to whomever I want." He threatens to expose Dexter. He promises that if Dexter gets in his way, he will bring everything crashing down. And just to twist the knife a little deeper, Miguel contacts George King, the season's secondary villain, and tells him that Dexter knows where Freebo is. This is essentially putting a hit out on his supposed best friend. Miguel knows that King is a dangerous man who skins his victims alive to extract information. He is sending King directly at Dexter, hoping the problem will solve itself. Speaking of George King, Let me take a moment to talk about the Skinner, because while he is overshadowed by Miguel Prado in Season 3, he is a genuinely frightening presence. King is a former torturer for the Nicaraguan military who came to Miami and fell into the criminal underworld. He earned the nickname the Skinner because his preferred method of getting information is to literally skin his victims alive. He peels the flesh from their bodies while they are still conscious, waiting for them to tell him whatever he wants to know. King is in Miami looking for Freebo, who owes a large sum of money to people King works for, but Dexter killed Freebo at the beginning of the season, so King is chasing a ghost. His victims are people connected to Freebo, associates, and acquaintances who might know where Freebo went. One of those victims is Anton Briggs, Deborah's boyfriend, who King kidnaps and partially skins before Deborah and the police can rescue him. Anton survives, but the physical and psychological damage is severe. King eventually kidnaps Dexter himself during what is supposed to be Dexter's bachelor party. But Dexter is not the kind of person you want to kidnap. He escapes, fights back, and dispatches King with the kind of efficiency that reminds you why Dexter Morgan is the most dangerous person in every room he enters, even when he does not look like it. The Skinner's death is almost anticlimactic compared to the Miguel Prado arc, which is fitting. George King was always the subplot. The real threat was the friend at the dinner table. Dexter ultimately kills Miguel Prado in Ellen Wolf's house. He wraps Miguel in plastic, arranges photos of Miguel's victims around the room, and prepares his knives. Miguel, bound and helpless, tries one last manipulation. He tells Dexter, "I accept you like a brother," and Dexter, without flinching, replies, "I killed my brother. I killed yours too." He is referring to both Brian Moser and Oscar Prado, though Oscar was actually killed by Freebo, not Dexter. The point is clear. Brotherhood means nothing to Dexter when the code is violated, and Miguel Prado violated every part of it. Dexter stages Miguel's death to look like a Skinner killing, which throws the police off his trail. It is clean, efficient, and deeply sad, because somewhere underneath all the manipulation and the lies there were real moments between Dexter and Miguel. Moments of genuine connection, fishing trips that were not faked, conversations that were not entirely performed. Dexter wanted that friendship to be real so badly that he blinded himself to the warning signs. And Miguel wanted the power that came from having a personal assassin so badly that he was willing to fake a friendship to get it. The lesson Season 3 teaches Dexter is one of the most important in the entire series. Sharing your secret is dangerous. Trust, real trust, the kind where someone knows what you are and still stands beside you, may not be possible for someone like Dexter. Because the wrong person will not be horrified by what you are. They will be excited by it. They will want to use it, and they will pretend to care about you just long enough to get what they want. It is a lesson that echoes through every subsequent season. Every time Dexter considers letting someone in, every time he wonders whether the loneliness might finally be breakable. Miguel Prado proved that the answer, at least for Dexter Morgan, is almost always no. Now then, if you're still with me, and I hope you are because we are only getting started, it is time to talk about Season 4. And if you know anything about Dexter, if you have spent any time at all in online discussions or fan communities or just talking about the show with friends, you know that Season 4 is the one. It is widely considered the best season of the entire series. And the villain, the one we're about to spend some real time with, is the reason why. Let us talk about Arthur Mitchell, the Trinity Killer. When we first meet Arthur Mitchell, he appears to be everything Dexter aspires to become. He is a family man with a wife named Sally, a son named Jonah, and a daughter named Rebecca. He is a high school teacher who is liked by his students. He is a church deacon who is respected by his congregation. And he is a dedicated volunteer with a charitable organisation called 4 Walls, 1 Heart, which builds houses for low-income families. Arthur Mitchell shows up to build sites in work boots and flannel, swings a hammer alongside other volunteers, and smiles that big, warm, paternal smile that makes people feel safe around him. His community adores him. His neighbours wave at him when he drives by. He is, by every outward measure, exactly the kind of upstanding citizen that Dexter sometimes fantasizes about becoming. But Arthur Mitchell is the Trinity killer. He's been murdering people in meticulous, ritualistic cycles for over 30 years. And nobody knows. The man is played by John Lithgow in a performance that won him an Emmy. And honestly, he probably deserved two. Lithgow takes a character who could have been a one-note psychopath and turns him into something far more complex and far more terrifying. Arthur Mitchell is a man at war with himself, a man trapped in a loop he cannot escape, a man who builds houses for the homeless, while also being the most prolific serial killer the FBI has ever failed to catch. Let me explain how the kill cycle works, because it is central to everything about this character. FBI Special Agent Frank Lundy, who you might remember from Season 2, returns in Season 4. He is retired now, but still obsessed with one unsolved case. For years, Lundy tracked a pattern of killings across multiple cities. In every city where Four Walls, One Heart had a volunteer build project, 3 people would die. Always 3. Always in the same order. First, a young woman would be found dead in a bathtub, her femoral artery cleanly slit, her body drained of blood in a way that was almost surgical. Second, a mother would be found dead after apparently jumping from a high place, a building or a parking structure or an overpass. Third, a man would be found beaten to death with a blunt instrument, usually a hammer. Lundy dubbed the unknown killer Trinity because of this 3-victim cycle. He wrote papers about it. He presented to the FBI. He tracked the pattern across decades, but the Bureau never officially accepted his theory. They thought Lundy was chasing shadows. The kills happened in different cities, months or years apart, and the victim types were too different for the standard profiling models to connect them. Lundy could not prove that the same person was responsible for all of them, and without proof, the FBI would not allocate resources. Lundy came to Miami because the pattern had started again. A woman named Lisa Bell was found dead in her bathtub, femoral artery slit, and Lundy recognized the signature immediately. He was retired and had no official authority, but he started investigating on his own, and he eventually connected with Deborah, who was working the case from the Miami Metro side. Their relationship became both professional and personal, which complicated things in ways that would later become tragic. Now, here is the detail that Lundy missed, and that nobody caught until Dexter put it together. The cycle is not 3 kills, it is 4. Before each cycle of murders begins, a 10-year-old boy goes missing. The boy is kidnapped and held for several days, kept alive during the bathtub kill, the jumping kill, and the bludgeoning kill, and then released unharmed after the cycle is complete. This detail was invisible for decades because missing children and homicides are classified in completely different ways by law enforcement. Nobody was looking at the 2 datasets together. The pattern only becomes visible when you overlay them. The reason for the 4-victim cycle is rooted in Arthur Mitchell's own childhood trauma, and this is where the character becomes something more than just a serial killer. This is where he becomes genuinely heartbreaking in a way that does not excuse anything he has done, but does explain it. When Arthur was 10 years old, he walked in on his older sister, Vera, in the bathtub. He startled her. She fell, hit her head on the porcelain, and bled to death. It was an accident, but Arthur, as a child, processed it as something he caused. His mother, overcome with grief and unable to cope, jumped off a bridge and died. His father, broken by the loss of his wife and daughter, descended into alcoholism and was eventually beaten to death in an alley by someone who was never caught. Arthur Mitchell lost his entire family in a cascading series of tragedies that started with a single accident. His sister, his mother, his father, gone. And the trauma of those losses crystallized inside him into something permanent and inescapable. Every kill cycle is Arthur recreating the deaths of his family members. The bathtub victim represents Vera. The jumper represents his mother. The bludgeoned man represents his father. And the kidnapped boy represents Arthur himself. The child he was before everything fell apart. The innocence he lost. He carries his sister's ashes in a small urn. He takes the urn with him wherever he goes. He pours a little of the ash out at key moments during each cycle. It is morbid and sad and deeply human all at once. Now let me talk about how Dexter infiltrates Arthur's life, because this is where the season becomes one of the best cat and mouse stories ever told on television. Dexter identifies Arthur Mitchell as the Trinity Killer through his own investigation, working independently of Miami Metro and the FBI. He uses the alias Kyle Butler and volunteers with 4 walls, 1 heart, showing up at build sites and making himself useful. He befriends Arthur. He meets the Mitchell family. He attends family dinners. He plays the role of a newcomer who just wants to contribute to the community. And Arthur, who is always looking for new volunteers, welcomes him warmly. There is a moment early in their relationship that is both darkly ironic and deeply significant. Arthur Mitchell is standing on the edge of a partially constructed building during a 4 walls, 1 heart event. He's looking down at the ground below, and it becomes clear to Dexter that Arthur is thinking about jumping. This is Arthur's suicide attempt. The weight of what he has done, the decades of killing, the endless cycle of recreating his family's deaths, has finally become too much. He wants it to end. Dexter grabs Arthur's arm at the last second and pulls him back. The gathered volunteers and community members cheer. They hail Kyle Butler as a hero. Arthur, with tears in his eyes, tells Dexter that God sent him. The irony is almost suffocating. A serial killer just saved the life of a serial killer, and the crowd thinks they're watching an act of divine intervention. Through his infiltration, Dexter discovers something that viewers at home find absolutely chilling. Arthur Mitchell's picture-perfect family is a facade. Behind closed doors, the Mitchell household is a nightmare. Arthur is physically abusive to his son Jonah, striking him and controlling every aspect of his life. He is emotionally and psychologically manipulative toward his wife Sally, who lives in constant fear of triggering his anger. His daughter Rebecca is trapped in a cycle of obedience and terror. One of the most disturbing scenes in the entire series takes place during a Thanksgiving dinner that Dexter attends as Kyle Butler. The meal starts normally enough, but when Arthur discovers that money and a wallet have gone missing from his van, something he incorrectly blames on Kyle, the mask comes off. Arthur demands that Sally hand over her jewellery, her earrings, her necklace, her wedding ring. He makes her strip these items from her body at the dinner table in front of their children and their guest. It is a display of absolute dominance, performed with the calm authority of a man who has been terrorizing his family for decades and knows they will comply because the consequences of resistance are too terrible to contemplate. The contrast between Arthur's public persona and his private behaviour is one of the most chilling aspects of Lithgow's performance. In public, Arthur is warm and generous and self-deprecating. In private, he is a tyrant who governs through fear. And the thing is, this is exactly what Dexter was trying to become. Dexter looked at Arthur Mitchell and saw a man who had maintained a family and a career and a position of respect in his community while also being a serial killer for 3 decades. Dexter thought, this is the template. This is proof that you can have both, that you can be a killer and a father and a husband without everything falling apart. There is a scene that encapsulates this perfectly. Dexter sits at the Mitchell family dinner table, eating pot roast, making small talk with Sally and the kids, and the whole time he is secretly cataloguing evidence. He watches Arthur correct Jonah with a sharp word that has too much edge to be fatherly. He watches Sally flinch almost imperceptibly when Arthur raises his voice to ask for the salt. He watches Rebecca shrink into herself when Arthur puts his hand on her shoulder. The abuse is everywhere, woven into every interaction, but it is so normalized within the household that the Mitchells do not even register it anymore. They have lived with this so long that terror has become background noise, and Dexter, sitting there with a napkin in his lap and a polite smile on his face, realizes something that shakes him. This is not the model he should aspire to. This is the cautionary tale. Arthur Mitchell did not figure out how to balance killing and family. He figured out how to use family as camouflage, while the killing ate him alive from the inside. The family's not thriving, the family's surviving. There is a significant difference between those two things. He was wrong, terribly, catastrophically wrong. Arthur eventually discovers that Kyle Butler is not who he claims to be. He does his own research. He visits the Miami Metro police station. He finds a bowling team photo on the wall with the names of the players listed underneath. And one of those names is Dexter Morgan. He browses the Trinity case whiteboards. He reads the evidence summaries. And then, in one of the most electrifying scenes in the show's history, Arthur walks up to Dexter in the police station and says calmly and quietly, "Hello, Dexter Morgan." The look on Dexter's face in that moment is something Michael C. Hall has never quite replicated, and I do not think he has ever had to. It is pure vulnerability, pure fear. This is one of the only times in the entire series where Dexter Morgan looks genuinely terrified, because Arthur Mitchell is not a man who makes empty threats. He has been killing for 30 years. He has evaded the FBI for 30 years, and now he knows exactly who Dexter is and what Dexter has been doing. There is also a subplot in Season 4 involving Christine Hill, Arthur's secret daughter from a past affair. Christine is a journalist who's been using her romantic relationship with Detective Quinn to feed information about the Trinity investigation back to her father. She is not a killer by nature, but she is willing to become one to protect the father she desperately wants approval from. When Frank Lundy's investigation gets too close, Christine shoots both Lundy and Deborah in a parking lot. Lundy dies, Deborah survives. It is a devastating loss. Lundy was one of the most intelligent and morally grounded characters in the series, and his death at the hands of Trinity's daughter closes a loop that had been open since Season 2. Christine eventually confesses to the shooting, and when Arthur coldly rejects her, tells her she means nothing to him, she takes her own life. It is another casualty of Arthur Mitchell's gravitational pull. Everyone who gets close to him suffers, his family, his daughter, and, as we are about to see, Dexter's family too. The finale of Season 4 is widely regarded as one of the greatest hours of television ever produced. Dexter finally captures Arthur Mitchell. He subdues him, transports him to a prepared kill room, and goes through the ritual. The plastic sheeting, the photographs, the confession. Arthur, bound and wrapped and facing death, is remarkably calm. There is no pleading, no bargaining. Instead, Arthur looks at Dexter and says 4 words that will echo through the rest of the franchise. It is already over. Dexter does not understand what Arthur means. He assumes Arthur is talking about his own life. He completes the kill, disposes of the body, and drives home through the Miami night, feeling something he rarely feels. Triumph. He has taken down the most prolific serial killer in American history. He has closed a case that the FBI could not close in 3 decades, and his family is safe. Then he opens his front door. The house is quiet. Too quiet. The lights are off except in the bathroom. Dexter walks down the hallway, and the camera follows him in a shot that feels like a slow-motion descent into hell. He pushes open the bathroom door. Rita is in the bathtub. Dead. Her femoral artery has been slit exactly the same way Arthur kills the first victim in every Trinity cycle. The water is deep red with blood. It has overflowed onto the tiles, and sitting on the floor of the bathroom, in a pool of his mother's blood, is Harrison, Dexter's infant son. Looking up at his father with wide, confused eyes, Harrison is sitting in exactly the same position that Dexter was in when Harry Morgan found him in that shipping container, surrounded by his mother's blood, traumatized before he is old enough to understand what trauma even means. The cycle has repeated itself across a generation. Arthur killed Rita before Dexter killed Arthur. That is what he meant by, "It is already over." His revenge was already complete by the time Dexter strapped him to the table. By delaying Arthur's death for weeks, by playing the cat and mouse game, by infiltrating his life, instead of just killing him when he had the chance, Dexter's arrogance cost Rita her life. I cannot overstate the impact this scene had when it originally aired. People were in shock. Rita Bennett was one of the moral centres of the show. She was kind, patient, long-suffering and innocent. She represented the life that Dexter pretended to live, and as long as she was alive, there was a version of Dexter's story where everything might turn out okay. Her death obliterated that possibility. It told the audience in the clearest possible terms that you cannot have both. You cannot be a serial killer and a family man. You cannot maintain both lives indefinitely. Something will break. And when it does, the people you love will pay the price for your choices. Arthur Mitchell works as a villain because he's not just a threat, he is a prophecy. He shows Dexter exactly what 30 years of hidden killing looks like. Not the fantasy version, where everything balances out, but the real version, where the family is broken, where the children are traumatized, where the wife lives in fear, where the community admiration is built on a foundation of lies and blood. Dexter looked at Arthur Mitchell and thought he saw a roadmap for his own future. What he actually saw was a warning, and he did not listen. Season 4 changes the show permanently. Every season that follows exists in the shadow of Rita's death. Every relationship Dexter attempts after this point is coloured by the knowledge of what his lifestyle costs the people closest to him, and Harrison, the infant in the blood, becomes a ticking time bomb. A child born in violence who may have inherited his father's darkness. That question, what will become of Harrison, will not be fully answered until Dexter New Blood, almost a decade later. But we are not there yet. First, we need to talk about what happens after the worst night of Dexter's life. Because Season 5 brings a new kind of villain, a new kind of partnership, and a new question about whether the darkness that lives inside Dexter is something permanent or something that can be survived. Season 5 opens in the immediate aftermath of Rita's murder. And I mean immediate. The first episode picks up right where the Season 4 finale left off, with Dexter standing in the bathroom doorway, staring at Rita's body in the bathtub, and Harrison crying on the floor in a pool of blood. The paramedics arrive, the police arrive, Deborah arrives, and Dexter stands there in the middle of all of it, completely numb. Not performing numbness, which is what he usually does, actually numb. The one person in the world who Dexter believed he might genuinely love is gone, and she is gone because of what he is. The grief arc that follows is one of the most emotionally honest stretches of the entire series. Dexter has to tell the children that their mother is dead. He has to sit through the funeral. He has to accept condolences from co-workers who have no idea that his lifestyle is the reason Rita is in a casket. He tries to feel something, anything, and he cannot quite get there. Not because he did not care about Rita, but because whatever mechanism allows normal human beings to process grief, Dexter has never been sure he actually possesses it. He knows he should be devastated. He knows the correct emotional response. But the gap between knowing what he should feel and actually feeling it is enormous. and that gap is where Dexter lives. It is in this state, hollowed out and running on autopilot, that Dexter encounters a woman named Lumen Pierce. And through Lumen, he discovers a villain that operates on a completely different model than anything the show has presented before. Here is how it happens. Dexter, still killing as a way to manage his grief, targets a man named Boyd Fowler. Fowler works for Miami-Dade County's Animal Control Department. He picks up dead animals from the roadside. He drives a white truck with the county logo on the side. By every appearance, he is an unremarkable civil servant doing an unremarkable job. But Dexter has identified Fowler as a killer. Fowler has been murdering women and disposing of their bodies in metal barrels filled with formaldehyde, which he then transports using his county vehicle. The dead animal runs give him cover. Nobody questions why a dead animal truck smells like chemicals. Dexter kills Fowler in what he expects to be a routine operation. But when he searches Fowler's house afterward, he finds something unexpected. A woman, locked in an attic room, alive but barely. She is malnourished, traumatized, covered in bruises and worse. She cannot speak coherently. She flinches at every sound. She has been held captive and subjected to things that the show only hints at, but that the audience understands perfectly well. Her name is Lumen Pierce. She is from Minnesota. She came to Miami for reasons that seemed ordinary at the time, and she was taken by a group of men who systematically abducted, raped, and tortured women before disposing of them in Boyd Fowler's barrels. Lumen was not Boyd's only victim. She was not even close, but she is the only one who survived. Dexter's first instinct is self-preservation. Lumen has seen his face. She was in the room when he killed Fowler. She is a witness, and witnesses are dangerous. But something about Lumen's situation reaches past Dexter's usual calculations. Maybe it is her helplessness. Maybe it is the parallel to his own childhood. Another person trapped in a room, surrounded by violence they did not ask for. Whatever the reason, Dexter does not kill Lumen. He lets her go. And when she comes back, when she seeks him out because she has nowhere else to turn, he does something even more surprising. He helps her, because Lumen does not just want to escape. She wants revenge. She wants every man who hurt her dead. And she wants to be the one who does it, or at least be present when it happens. The group that victimized Lumen consists of 5 men: Boyd Fowler, the disposal expert who Dexter has already killed; Cole Harmon, a former military man who now works as head of security for Jordan Chase; Alex Tilden, a trust fund kid who participated in the rapes; Dan Mendel, who was murdered years earlier by the group themselves in what was staged to look like a fishing accident; and the leader, the man at the center of everything, Jordan Chase. Jordan Chase is arguably the most outwardly respectable villain in the entire Dexter franchise. He is a famous motivational speaker. His catchphrase is "take it," and he fills arenas with thousands of paying customers who hang on every word he says. He sells books, he has merchandise, he appears on television. His public persona is one of empowerment and self-improvement and seizing control of your life. If you did not know what he was, you might see him at a conference and buy a ticket. His real name is Eugene Greer. He grew up in a small town and was part of a group of young men who committed a horrific crime against a girl named Emily Birch when they were teenagers. That crime was the foundation of everything that followed. Chase or Greer was the one who organized and directed the assault on Emily. He was not the one who physically committed the worst of it, not at first. His role was more managerial. He watched, he directed, he orchestrated, and he kept a vial of Emily Birch's blood around his neck as a trophy, wearing it under his shirt at every motivational speaking engagement for years afterward. As the men grew up and went their separate ways, Chase kept them connected. He turned their shared secret into a network. They would reconvene periodically to abduct new victims, repeating the pattern they had established as teenagers. The women were taken, assaulted by the group, and then given to Boyd Fowler for disposal. It was organised, it was systematic, and it was protected by the fact that Jordan Chase's public profile made him essentially untouchable. Who is going to believe that America's favourite motivational speaker is running a rape ring? Jordan Chase has a particular way of threatening people who get too close to the truth. He leans in, makes eye contact and says, "Tick, tick, tick." That is the sound of your life running out. It is delivered with such casual confidence that it feels more terrifying than any shouted threat. This is a man who is completely certain of his own invulnerability. He has been doing this for decades, and no one has ever come close to stopping him. Dexter and Lumen begin working their way through the group, one by one. Fowler is already dead. Cole Harmon is next. Dexter kills him in a hotel room, which becomes complicated when Jordan Chase himself turns out to be staying in the same hotel. Dexter has to dismember Harmon's body and transport it out, while Chase is literally down the hallway. It is one of the more nerve-wracking sequences of the season. Alex Tilden is killed by Lumen herself, which represents a major milestone for her character. She has gone from a broken survivor hiding in an attic to someone capable of confronting and destroying the men who hurt her. It is simultaneously empowering and deeply unsettling, because you can see the toll it takes on her, even as she insists it is necessary. The climax of the season involves Chase kidnapping Lumen and taking her back to the campsite where the original assaults took place years ago. It is a location loaded with meaning for both the victims and the perpetrators. Dexter tracks them there. Jordan ties Dexter up and taunts him, telling him that he sees a kind of greatness in Dexter, but that Dexter is still totally lost. When Jordan opens Dexter's knife roll to examine the tools, he notices one pocket is empty. Dexter has hidden a knife. He stabs Jordan in the foot, breaks free, and subdues him. Lumen, standing over the man who orchestrated the worst experience of her life, kills Jordan Chase by driving a knife into his chest. And then something remarkable happens. As Dexter and Lumen are cleaning up the crime scene in the campsite, Deborah arrives. She has been tracking the vigilante couple, a woman survivor and her male partner, through her own investigation. Deborah knows about the Barrel Girls. She has watched the horrific DVDs that the group recorded of their assaults. She aims her gun at the silhouettes of Dexter and Lumen behind a sheet of plastic, and for one terrible moment, you think she might shoot, but she does not. Deborah tells the two figures behind the plastic that she knows what happened to victim number 13. She says she understands, and she gives them 1 hour to leave. She never sees their faces. She never identifies Dexter. It is an extraordinary moment for Deborah Morgan. She is a law enforcement officer who just let two killers walk away because she decided that what they did was justified. It foreshadows her decision in Season 7 to protect Dexter after learning his secret, and it reveals that Deborah's moral compass, while still pointed toward justice, has more flexibility and more compassion than she would probably admit to herself. After Jordan Chase is dead and the group has been dismantled, something unexpected happens to Lumen. Her darkness leaves. The rage and the need for vengeance that had been consuming her since her abduction simply evaporates. She tells Dexter that when she watched Jordan's body disappear into the ocean, something shifted inside her. The dark passenger, to use Dexter's terminology, is gone. She does not feel the need to kill anymore. She does not want revenge. She wants to go home. Dexter is heartbroken. Not in the dramatic, violent way that Rita's death hurt him, in a quieter, sadder way, because Lumen's healing proves something that Dexter has always suspected about himself. Other people can recover from darkness. Other people can carry a dark passenger for a time and then let it go. But Dexter cannot. His darkness is not a response to a specific trauma that can be processed and resolved. It is woven into who he is. It has been there since the shipping container, since Brian, since before he even had language to describe it. Lumen got better. Dexter never will. He tells her, "Do not be sorry your darkness is gone. I will carry it for you. Always. I will keep it with mine." Lumen leaves Miami, and Dexter is alone again, confirmed in the belief that healing, true healing, is something that other people get to experience, not him. Season 5 is often overshadowed by the seasons that surround it. Season 4 with Trinity is the popular favourite. Season 6 with the Doomsday Killer is controversial. But Season 5 has a quiet power to it that I think is underappreciated. It asks whether the damage that was done to Dexter as a child is permanent, whether there is any version of this story where the darkness goes away, and the answer, delivered through Lumen's departure, is no. For some people, the shipping container never ends. Now Season 6 takes the show in a very different direction. We are leaving the world of personal vendettas and entering the territory of religious apocalypse, hallucinated mentors, and a twist that fundamentally changes the dynamic of the Morgan family forever. Let us talk about Travis Marshall, the Doomsday Killer. Season 6 of Dexter plunges the show into territory it has never explored before. Religious extremism, apocalyptic delusion, and a central twist that directly mirrors the most important psychological mechanism in Dexter's own life. It is also the season that ends with a moment so seismic that every episode afterward exists in its shadow. The villain this time is Travis Marshall, a young man who is staging elaborate murder tableau based on scenes from the Book of Revelation. And when I say elaborate, I mean it. These are not simple killings. These are constructed spectacles designed to replicate specific biblical prophecies in graphic, physical form. The first tableau involves the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, 4 corpses opposed on actual horses, each rider representing a different horseman, assembled in a field where they can be discovered at sunrise. The level of planning required for something like this is staggering. You need bodies, you need horses, you need time, you need a location, you need to transport everything there without being seen. And you need a deep familiarity with the source material to get the imagery right. Later tableaux include a woman staged as the Whore of Babylon, suspended from a building and covered in snakes. There is a recreation of the wormwood prophecy involving a poisoned water supply. There is an angel of death display. Each one is more ambitious and more disturbing than the last, and each one corresponds to a specific passage from Revelation, as if the killer is working his way through the text sequentially, building towards some final cataclysmic act. Travis Marshall appears at first to be working under the guidance of a man named Professor James Geller. Geller is a former religious studies professor at a local university who was fired after his views became too extreme even for academia. He disappeared years ago, and the authorities presumed him dead or in hiding. But apparently, he is alive and well, and directing Travis in this campaign of apocalyptic violence. The dynamic between Travis and Geller, at least as it is initially presented, looks like a mentor and student relationship. Geller is the visionary, the theological mind, the one who interprets the prophecies and designs the tableau. Travis is the hands, the one who does the physical work, the one who gets his hands dirty. Geller pushes Travis deeper and deeper into depravity, while Travis occasionally hesitates, shows mercy, or expresses doubt. There are scenes where Travis lets a victim go because he cannot bring himself to finish the job, and Geller berates him for being weak. But there is a twist, and it is a twist that, depending on who you ask, is either one of the most thematically rich reveals in the series or one of the most predictable. James Geller has been dead for 3 years. Travis murdered him. Geller is a hallucination. He does not exist. Every conversation Travis has had with Geller, every instruction Geller has given, every argument they have had, has been Travis talking to himself. Geller's body is found in a freezer, perfectly preserved, killed by Travis, long before the events of Season 6 began. Now here is why this twist matters beyond the shock value. It is a direct mirror of Dexter's own psychological framework. Throughout the entire series, Dexter regularly sees and talks to the ghost of Harry Morgan. Harry appears to Dexter in times of stress, offering guidance, reminding him of the code, warning him when he's about to make a mistake. The audience understands that Harry is not literally there. He is a manifestation of Dexter's conscience, a psychological construct that allows Dexter to externalize his decision-making process. Harry is Dexter's dark passenger, given a face and a voice, except Harry's purpose is to contain the darkness rather than unleash it. Travis Marshall has the exact same mechanism, but inverted. Where Dexter's hallucination pushes him toward restraint, Travis's hallucination pushes him toward destruction. Where Harry says, "Do not get caught, and only kill those who deserve it," Geller says the world must be purified through blood and fire. Same psychological construction, opposite moral direction. It is a fascinating parallel that the show could have explored more deeply, though the consensus among fans is that the execution of the reveal did not quite land with the impact it deserved. A significant chunk of the audience figured out that Geller was dead well before the official reveal, partly because the show had already established the hallucination device with Harry, and partly because careful viewers noticed that no character other than Travis ever interacted with Geller directly. He was always conveniently absent when other people were in the room. The clues were there, and enough people picked up on them that when the reveal finally came, the reaction was more of an "oh, I knew it" than a genuine shock. That said, the thematic resonance is strong. Travis Marshall and Dexter Morgan are both serial killers, guided by the voice of a dead man. The difference is which dead man, and what that man tells them to do. It raises uncomfortable questions about the nature of the code itself. If Dexter's restraint comes from a hallucination, is it any more valid than Travis's madness? If the voice in your head tells you to only kill bad people, and you follow it, are you really any different from the man whose voice tells him to kill for God? The season also includes a subplot that, while shorter in runtime than the Doomsday arc, carries enormous emotional weight. Brother Sam is a reformed gang member who found religion in prison and became a Christian pastor. He opens an auto body shop that employs former convicts, giving them honest work and a path away from crime, and he befriends Dexter. Their friendship is genuine and surprising. Brother Sam is not intimidated by Dexter. He does not sense the darkness the way Dokes did. Instead, he sees a man in pain, and he tries to reach him with kindness and faith. For a brief period, Dexter actually considers the possibility that there might be something more to existence than the darkness he carries. That maybe, just maybe, Brother Sam is onto something. And then Brother Sam is shot by a former gang associate named Nick, who resents Sam for leaving the life and sees his religious conversion as a betrayal. Brother Sam dies in the hospital, and Dexter is crushed. Not in the overwhelming way that Rita's death affected him. In a quieter way, Brother Sam was maybe the one person in Dexter's life who offered him genuine spiritual hope without strings attached, and now that person is gone. After Brother Sam's death, something shifts inside Dexter. He temporarily rejects Harry's ghost as his internal compass, and in Harry's place he starts hallucinating Brian Moser, his dead brother, the ice truck killer. And this version of Brian is encouraging Dexter to abandon the code entirely, to kill without rules, to stop pretending he is anything other than what he really is. It echoes the choice Brian presented in Season 1, but this time there is no physical confrontation. The battle is entirely internal. Dexter goes on a reckless spree that gets uncomfortably close to Brian's way of operating. He kills a man in a public bathroom. He takes risks he would normally never take. He is testing the limits of a life without the code, and the results are messy and dangerous. Eventually, Dexter pulls himself back. He rejects Brian's hallucination and re-embraces Harry and the code. But the temptation was real, and it reminds the audience that the darkness Brian represented in Season 1 never fully went away. It has been lurking beneath the surface for years, waiting for the right combination of grief and disillusionment to give it an opening. The climax of Season 6 revolves around Travis Marshall's final tableau. He has been building toward the ultimate prophecy from Revelation, which involves a sacrifice, specifically the sacrifice of a lamb. And Travis interprets this literally. He kidnaps Harrison, Dexter's young son, intending to kill him as part of the final ritual. Dexter is, understandably, terrified and furious. He tracks Travis to a church where the sacrifice is being prepared. There is a chase, a confrontation, and Dexter rescues Harrison from the altar where Travis had placed him. Travis is subdued. Dexter wraps him in plastic, places him on the altar, and kills him. It is a satisfying conclusion to a villain who had threatened Dexter's child, and under normal circumstances, it would be the climax of the season. But what happens next is so much bigger than Travis Marshall. Deborah has been seeing a therapist throughout the season. She's been working through complicated feelings about her brother, feelings that the therapist has helped her identify as going beyond normal sibling affection. It is uncomfortable territory that the show navigates with varying degrees of success, but the therapy has also been leading Deborah to a place of greater honesty with herself, a willingness to confront truths she has been avoiding. On the night Dexter kills Travis, Deborah comes to the church. She's looking for Dexter. She has something she needs to tell him, and as she walks through the doors, she sees him, standing over Travis Marshall's body, knife in hand, covered in blood, the plastic wrap, the ritual, everything. Deborah sees everything. And in that moment, the fundamental dynamic of the Dexter franchise changes forever. For 5.5 seasons, the central tension of the show was, will Dexter get caught? The audience lived in a constant state of anxiety about whether someone would discover his secret. Dokes came close and died for it. Lila figured it out and used it. Miguel learned part of the truth and tried to exploit it. But Deborah, the person Dexter loves most in the world, the person he killed his own brother to protect, has now seen the truth with her own eyes. There is no taking this back. There is no explaining it away. Deborah Morgan knows that her brother is a killer, and everything that follows in Season 7, in Season 8, and arguably in New Blood is a consequence of this single moment. Travis Marshall, the Doomsday Killer, may not be the most memorable villain in the series. He does not have Trinity's gravitas or Brian Moses' emotional resonance, but he serves a crucial narrative purpose. He is the catalyst for the revelation that breaks the show wide open. Without Travis, there is no church scene. Without the church scene, Deborah does not know. And without Deborah knowing, the final act of the Dexter story cannot begin. Speaking of that final act, let us move into Season 7, which brings not one but two significant antagonists into Dexter's orbit, plus the devastating consequences of Deborah's discovery. Season 7 is one of the densest and most emotionally complicated seasons of the entire run. It has to juggle 3 major storylines simultaneously, any one of which could carry a season on its own. The fallout of Deborah discovering Dexter's secret, a Ukrainian crime lord hunting Dexter for revenge, and a beautiful poisoner who makes Dexter question everything the code ever taught him about love. Let us start with Deborah, because her reaction to what she saw in that church is the emotional engine that drives everything else. When Deborah walks in on Dexter standing over Travis Marshall's body, her first reaction is shock. Pure, physical, visceral shock. She stares at him. She cannot process what she is seeing. Dexter, to his credit, does not try to deny it entirely. He cannot. The evidence is literally wrapped in plastic at his feet. Instead, he tells Deborah a partial truth. He tells her that Travis Marshall kidnapped Harrison, that Dexter snapped, that it was a one-time thing born out of a father's rage. Deborah wants to believe him. She needs to believe him, because the alternative, that her brother is a serial killer who has been doing this for years, is too enormous to absorb all at once. But Deborah is a detective, and detectives ask questions. Over the course of the early episodes of Season 7, Deborah pulls at threads. She thinks back over years of suspicious behaviour, late nights that were never fully explained, crime scenes where Dexter seemed a little too composed, the Bay Harbor butcher investigation, where Dokes was blamed and the case was closed in a way that never quite sat right with anyone who was paying attention. And slowly, agonizingly, Deborah arrives at the full truth. Dexter is not a man who killed once in a moment of rage. He is a serial killer. He has been killing for years, decades, and every single day she has known him, every breakfast, every holiday, every late-night phone call between siblings. He has been hiding this from her. Her reaction unfolds in stages that feel painfully real. First, there is anger. She punches him. She screams at him. She calls him a monster. Then there is nausea. She literally vomits when the full weight of it hits her. Then there is bargaining. She demands that Dexter move in with her so she can monitor him. She takes him to a church and begs him to stop. She tells him she will help him, that they will fix this together, as if serial killing is a habit that can be broken with enough willpower and family support. And then gradually and terribly, there is complicity. Deborah does not turn Dexter in. She cannot bring herself to do it. He is her brother. He is the person she loves most in the world. And so she becomes his protector. She covers for him. She lies for him. She compromises everything she believes in as a law enforcement officer because the alternative is losing Dexter, and that is something she simply cannot face. This is the tragedy of Deborah Morgan in its purest form. She's a good person who loves a bad person, and that love destroys her. Not quickly, slowly. Over the course of 2 seasons, Deborah's moral foundation cracks and crumbles and eventually collapses entirely. And the worst part is that Dexter lets it happen. He accepts her protection. He relies on her complicity. He lets the person who loves him most shoulder the weight of his sins because it is convenient for him. Now, against this backdrop, Season 7 introduces its primary external villain, Isaac Serko. Isaac is the head of the Koshka Brotherhood, a Ukrainian organized crime syndicate that operates in Miami through a strip club called the Foxhole. The Brotherhood is involved in drugs, prostitution, money laundering, and murder. Isaac himself is sophisticated, cultured, and genuinely dangerous in a way that most television villains are not. He speaks multiple languages. He appreciates art and literature. He dresses impeccably, and he kills people with a calm efficiency that suggests he has been doing it for a very long time and has made his peace with it. The chain of events that brings Isaac into conflict with Dexter begins with a detective named Mike Anderson. Anderson stumbles upon a crime connected to the Koshka Brotherhood and is murdered by a Brotherhood soldier named Victor Baskov. Dexter, investigating Anderson's death independently, tracks Victor to a bar and kills him. Clean, efficient, body disposed of in the ocean. Just another night for Dexter Morgan. But Victor Baskov was not just any Koshka soldier. He was Isaac Serko's lover. This detail is handled with a remarkable subtlety for a show that aired in 2012. Isaac does not broadcast his sexuality. The Brotherhood does not know about the relationship, or if they suspect, they do not acknowledge it. In a world of organized crime where homosexuality could be seen as a weakness or a liability, Isaac kept his love for Victor private. But the love was real. Deeply, fiercely real. And when Isaac discovers that Victor is dead, he comes to Miami with one purpose: to find the man who killed his lover and destroy him. What makes Isaac such a compelling villain is that his motivation is not greed or power or ideology. It is love. He is hunting Dexter because Dexter took away the person he loved most. Strip away the organized crime context, and Isaac's story is a grief narrative. A man loses his partner and cannot rest until he has avenged that loss. It is the same emotional territory that drove Dexter in the aftermath of Rita's death. The same territory that drove Miguel Prado when his brother Oscar was killed. The same territory that drives half the vengeance stories ever told. Isaac is also terrifyingly competent. He tracks Dexter to his apartment. He kills 3 Colombians in a bar using nothing but a handgun and decades of combat experience, leaving behind a crime scene that Miami Metro cannot quite figure out. He confronts Dexter directly, multiple times, and in each confrontation, there is a genuine question of who would walk away if things escalated to violence. Dexter is dangerous, but Isaac Serco is dangerous in a different way. He is a man with nothing left to lose, and the skills to make that count. Their conflict evolves over the course of the season into something that neither of them expected: mutual respect. Dexter and Isaac are, in certain fundamental ways, the same kind of person. Both are killers, operating under codes that make sense to them. Both are capable of genuine love, despite being capable of genuine violence. Both understand what it means to wear a mask in public, while carrying something dark and private underneath. Their conversations, when they happen, have a quality that is almost friendly. At one point, Isaac gives Dexter advice about his budding relationship with Hannah McKay. It is a surreal moment. 2 men who have been trying to kill each other, discussing the complexities of love over what amounts to a civilized chat. Isaac's end comes not from Dexter, but from his own organization. George Novikov, a lieutenant in the Koshka Brotherhood, decides that Isaac's vendetta against Dexter is bad for business. The pursuit has attracted police attention, disrupted operations, and threatened the Brotherhood's interests in Miami. Novikov hires assassins to take Isaac out. Isaac is shot. He manages to reach Dexter, and in his final moments, there is an exchange between them that feels almost like a farewell between friends. Dexter takes Isaac's body to sea and disposes of it with something approaching honor. It is a strange and melancholy ending for one of the show's most dignified antagonists. And now, we need to talk about Hannah McKay, because Hannah is the villain who breaks every rule Dexter has ever followed. Hannah McKay enters the show as a figure from a dark past. Years ago, when she was a teenager, she went on a cross-country crime spree with a man named Wayne Randall. Randall was a drifter and a killer, and he took young Hannah along for the ride. They committed multiple murders across several states before being caught. Randall went to prison for life. Hannah, who was underage and cooperated with the prosecution, received immunity. She testified against Randall and was released. In the years since, Hannah has built a quiet life for herself in Miami. She runs a plant nursery, she is beautiful and soft-spoken, and she has a warmth about her that feels genuine. When Wayne Randall decides to cooperate with police and reveal the locations of his victims' bodies, Hannah is brought in as a consultant because she was present during the crimes. This is how she meets Dexter, who is processing the crime scenes. The attraction between them is immediate and intense. Hannah is not afraid of Dexter. She does not flinch from darkness. She has her own history with violence, and she carries it with a calm acceptance that Dexter finds magnetic. When they are together, Dexter does not have to pretend to be normal. He does not have to perform emotions he does not feel. Hannah already knows what it is like to live in the shadow of terrible acts. She understands. But Hannah is still killing. Dexter discovers this gradually. Her method is poison. She uses plant-based toxins that are nearly undetectable, leveraging her extensive knowledge of botany to kill people in ways that look like natural death or accident. She killed a woman named Beverly Gray, who stood in her way. She killed a counselor named Price, who was getting too close to the truth about her past. Her kills are clean and quiet, and she shows no remorse for any of them. By the code of Harry, Hannah McKay should be on Dexter's table. She is a killer who has escaped justice. She fits every criterion, and Dexter fully intends to kill her. He investigates her. He confirms her guilt. He prepares, and then he does not do it. He cannot, because he has fallen in love with her. This is new territory for Dexter Morgan. He cared about Rita, but there was always a performance involved. He bonded with Lumen, but that was a partnership forged in shared trauma. With Hannah, for the first time in his life, Dexter is experiencing genuine romantic love, with someone who knows exactly what he is and loves him back. Not despite the darkness, alongside it. Hannah sees Dexter clearly, the killer and the man, and she does not look away. And Dexter sees Hannah clearly, the poisoner and the woman, and he chooses love over the code. This drives Deborah absolutely insane. Not just because Hannah is a murderer who Dexter is supposed to kill rather than date, but because Deborah, through her therapy, has come to realize that her feelings for Dexter are not purely sisterly. She has romantic feelings for him, feelings that she is ashamed of and horrified by and completely unable to resolve. Watching Dexter fall in love with another woman, a woman who is also a killer, is excruciating for Deborah on every possible level. Deborah ultimately makes a decision that damages her relationship with Dexter, perhaps more than any other single act in the series. She turns Hannah in to the police. She goes over Dexter's head, behind his back, and has Hannah arrested for the murder of Sal Price. It is an act of law enforcement, technically, but everyone involved knows it is also an act of jealousy, desperation, and self-preservation. Deborah is losing her brother to a woman who understands him in ways Deborah never can, and she cannot bear it. Hannah is arrested but eventually escapes, which sets up threads that continue into Season 8. But the damage to the Dexter and Deborah relationship is profound and lasting. And then there is the Laguerta storyline, which brings Season 7 to one of the most devastating conclusions in the entire franchise. Lieutenant Maria Laguerta has been a presence on the show since the first episode. She is ambitious, political, and sometimes ruthless in her career manoeuvring. But she's also a genuinely good detective who loved James Dokes and never accepted the official narrative that Dokes was the Bay Harbor butcher. When she finds a bloodslide at the church where Travis Marshall was killed, a bloodslide that matches the methodology of the Bay Harbor butcher, something clicks in Laguerta's mind. She starts reinvestigating the case, quietly, without telling anyone. Over the course of Season 7, Laguerta's investigation gets closer and closer to Dexter. She pulls financial records. She examines old evidence. She finds inconsistencies in the Dokes narrative that were glossed over the first time around. And eventually, she confronts Dexter directly. She does not have enough evidence for an arrest, but she knows. She can feel it, and she sets a trap. Using Hector Estrada, one of the men who murdered Dexter's mother, in the shipping container, Laguerta creates a scenario designed to catch Dexter in the act. She positions herself at a shipping container, armed and waiting, expecting Dexter to come for Estrada. And Dexter does come. He walks into the trap. Laguerta steps out with her gun drawn and orders him to his knees. For one electric moment, it looks like this might be the end. The Bay Harbor butcher, finally caught by the one detective who never stopped looking. But Deborah arrives. She's been monitoring the situation. She knows what Laguerta is doing, and she knows what it will mean for Dexter if the trap works. And in the most devastating decision of her entire life, a decision that will define everything that follows, Deborah Morgan raises her gun and shoots Maria Laguerta dead. A lieutenant of the Miami Metro Homicide Department murders her own captain to protect her serial killer brother. It is the point of no return. There is no coming back from this. Deborah has crossed a line that cannot be uncrossed. She has become a killer herself, not in the structured, ritualized way that Dexter kills, but in the desperate, panicked way that people kill when they see no other option. Deborah collapses. She is sobbing. She is broken. And Dexter holds her, and you can see in his eyes something that might be gratitude and might be horror, and is probably both. Season 7 ends with Lagerta dead, Hannah escaped, Isaac buried at sea, and Deborah shattered beyond anything that therapy or time or love can repair. The show has been building toward this moment for 7 years. The secret is no longer just Dexter's burden. It is Deborah's too, and it is destroying her. Let us press on now into Season 8, the final season of the original series. A season that attempts to bring all of these threads together, introduces one more villain, and delivers an ending that sparked one of the most passionate fan debates in television history. Season 8 is, to put it gently, the most controversial season of the original Dexter series. Fans have strong opinions about it, critics have strong opinions about it, and even some of the people involved with the show have strong opinions about it. But whatever you think of the execution, the ideas at the core of Season 8 are fascinating. And the villain, while not the strongest the show ever produced, serves a specific purpose in the larger story of Dexter Morgan. The season introduces Dr. Evelyn Vogel, and she is perhaps the most important new character added to the show in its later years. Vogel is a psychologist who specializes in psychopathy. She has spent her career studying people who lack empathy, people who simulate human connection without feeling it, people who operate according to internal logics that most of society would find incomprehensible. She is brilliant, measured, and deeply unsettling in the way that someone who has spent decades inside the minds of monsters can be. But Vogel has a secret. She contacts Dexter because someone has been leaving partial brain specimens on her doorstep. Specifically, sections scooped from the anterior insular cortex, which is the part of the brain associated with empathy and emotional awareness. These specimens are taken from murder victims, delivered to Vogel like grotesque gifts. The press, when the story inevitably leaks, dubs the unknown killer the brain surgeon. Vogel's connection to Dexter goes much deeper than a shared interest in psychopathy. Decades earlier, she was the psychologist who worked with Harry Morgan. When Harry recognized the darkness in young Dexter and did not know what to do about it, he consulted Vogel. And it was Vogel who helped Harry develop the code. She was the intellectual architect of the system that has governed Dexter's entire life. The rules about only killing people who deserve it. The emphasis on not getting caught, the ritualized structure that channels Dexter's compulsions into something that, from a certain angle, resembles justice. All of it traces back to conversations between Harry Morgan and Evelyn Vogel. This revelation recontextualizes the entire series. Dexter has always believed that the code was Harry's creation, born out of a father's desperate love for a broken son. And that is partly true, but it is also partly a clinical intervention designed by a psychologist who saw Dexter as a case study. Vogel did not create the code out of love. She created it out of professional interest, out of curiosity about whether a psychopath could be managed rather than incarcerated, out of a desire to test her theories about the malleability of antisocial behaviour. Dexter is, in a sense, Vogel's experiment. And the question of whether that experiment was ethical, whether it was even wise, hangs over the entire season. Vogel claims she sees Dexter as a kind of son. She calls him perfect, meaning he is the perfect expression of her work. A functioning psychopath who kills in a controlled and directed way. Whether this affection is genuine or simply another layer of professional detachment is something the show leaves deliberately ambiguous. Vogel is not easy to read, and that is by design. The brain surgeon, the person leaving those anterior insular cortex specimens on Vogel's doorstep, is eventually revealed to be Oliver Saxon. And Oliver Saxon's real name is Daniel Vogel. He is Evelyn's son. The backstory is this. As a child, Daniel drowned his younger brother, Richard. It was not an accident. Daniel held his brother underwater until the boy stopped moving. Evelyn and her husband were confronted with the reality that their son was a psychopath. Not in the controlled, manageable way that Dexter is a psychopath, but in the unpredictable, genuinely dangerous way that defies intervention. Daniel was placed in a mental health facility in England. The family was told he would receive treatment. Instead, he suffered. And at age 17, Daniel apparently died in a fire at the facility. Except he did not die. Daniel faked his death. He escaped, created new identities and spent years living under aliases, moving from place to place, killing periodically, and nursing a deep festering resentment toward the mother who put him away and the brother whose death started everything. Saxon sends the brain specimens to Vogel as a message. The anterior insular cortex is the empathy center. By removing it from his victims and delivering it to the woman who spent her career studying empathy in psychopaths, Daniel is telling his mother that he knows what she did. He knows she studied people like him. He knows she helped create the code for Dexter while abandoning her own son to an institution. And he is furious. As a villain, Saxon is competent and genuinely threatening. He operates with a cold efficiency that makes him dangerous to anyone who gets close. He kills Zach Hamilton, a young man that Dexter had been mentoring as a kind of protege, someone Dexter hoped he could train the way Harry trained him. Zach's death is a blow to Dexter because it represents the failure of his attempt to pass the code to a new generation. Saxon also kills Cassie Jollenston, a neighbour of Dexter's, as a way of taunting and destabilising him. And eventually, in the most devastating act of the season, Saxon kills Evelyn Vogel herself. He slits his own mother's throat while Dexter watches helplessly through a window. It is a brutal, intimate murder that Dexter witnesses via a live video feed from inside Vogel's house. Dexter arrives too late to save her. He holds Vogel's body as she dies, the woman who helped create the code bleeding out in his arms. But here is the thing about Season 8 that I think even its harshest critics would acknowledge. The real emotional story is not about Oliver Saxon. Saxon is the external threat. He drives the plot forward. He creates urgency and danger. But the story that actually matters, the story that the entire series has been building toward, is the story of Dexter and Deborah. Deborah has been spiralling since the end of Season 7. Killing La Guerta broke something fundamental inside her. She has left the police force. She's drinking heavily. She is working as a private investigator and making choices that put her in danger. The guilt is eating her alive. She looks at Dexter and she sees the reason. Her hands are stained with blood, and she cannot forgive him for it, and she cannot stop loving him either. Over the course of Season 8, the Morgan siblings attempt a fragile, painful reconciliation. Deborah begins to pull herself back from the edge. She starts to function again. She even helps Dexter track Saxon. There are moments where it looks like they might actually find a way through this, that the two of them might emerge from the wreckage of the last 8 years and build something resembling a normal relationship. And then Saxon shoots her. It happens in the finale. Deborah confronts Saxon. There is a struggle. Saxon puts a bullet in her abdomen and flees. Deborah is rushed to the hospital. The doctors operate. Initially, the prognosis is cautiously optimistic. She is out of surgery. She is stable. Everyone exhales. And then she has a stroke. A blood clot forms and travels to her brain. The damage is catastrophic and irreversible. Deborah Morgan, the foul-mouthed, fiercely loyal, fundamentally good heart of the series, is left in a persistent vegetative state. She will never wake up. She will never speak again. She will never call Dexter on his bullshit, or punch him in the arm, or tell him she loves him. She is gone in every way that matters. Dexter walks into her hospital room. He looks at her lying there, machines breathing for her, monitors beeping steadily, and he knows what he has to do. He disconnects her from life support. He lifts her body from the bed. He carries her through the hospital, past nurses and doctors who are too shocked to stop him, and out onto his boat. And he drives the boat out into the ocean, into the path of a hurricane that is bearing down on Miami. What happens next frustrated a lot of fans, and I understand why. The show cuts to a lumberjack camp somewhere in the Pacific Northwest. Dexter is alive. He survived the hurricane. He is living under a false identity, working a manual labour job, bearded and hollow-eyed and utterly alone. The final shot of the original series is Dexter sitting at a table in a sparse cabin staring directly into the camera. His expression is blank. There is no warmth, no humanity, no mask, just emptiness. It was meant to be a punishment. The showrunners intended it as Dexter choosing exile, choosing to remove himself from the world, because everyone he has ever loved has been destroyed by his presence. But for many fans it felt like an anticlimax. After 8 seasons of building toward what seemed like an inevitable reckoning, Dexter just walks away. No arrest, no trial, no death. He gets to live, albeit a hollow existence, while Rita and Dokes and Lagertha and Deborah are all dead. Saxon himself is dispatched in an almost perfunctory way. While in custody at the hospital where Deborah is dying, Saxon is visited by Dexter. Saxon lunges at Dexter. Dexter grabs a pen and stabs Saxon in the neck. Saxon dies. The security camera footage shows Saxon making the first aggressive move, so the killing is ruled self-defense. It is a neat, efficient resolution to a villain who, truthfully, never carried the emotional weight that the season needed him to carry. Oliver Saxon shares conceptual DNA with Brian Moser. Both are long-lost relatives of pivotal characters. Both are psychopaths with institutional backgrounds. Both feel abandoned by the people who are supposed to protect them. But Brian had a personal connection to Dexter that made every scene between them electric. Saxon has no such connection. He is Vogel's problem that spills over into Dexter's life. He is threatening enough to drive the plot, but not compelling enough to anchor a final season. What Season 8 does well, though, and what I think deserves recognition, even from people who dislike the ending, is its unflinching commitment to the central tragedy of the Dexter franchise. Everyone who gets close to Dexter suffers. Everyone. His brother, his wife, his colleagues, his captain, his sister. The list of casualties grows longer with every season, and by the end of Season 8, the weight of it is almost unbearable. Dexter Morgan is a black hole of human destruction, not because he is evil in the conventional sense, but because the nature of his existence makes it impossible for the people around him to survive unscathed. The lumberjack ending was not the end of Dexter's story. The fans would not allow it. The creators would not allow it. And in 2021, the franchise returned with a limited series that attempted to provide the definitive conclusion that Season 8 had failed to deliver. Let us go there now. Let us go to Iron Lake, New York, and meet the last great villain of the Dexter saga, a man named Kurt Caldwell. Dexter New Blood premiered in November 2021, nearly a decade after the original series ended, and it brought back something that fans had been demanding since that lumberjack scene faded to black. Consequences. Real, permanent, irreversible consequences for the life Dexter Morgan had led. The show finds Dexter living in Iron Lake, New York, a small picturesque town in upstate New York. It is about as far removed from Miami as you can possibly imagine. Where Miami was flat, hot, neon-lit and sprawling, Iron Lake is cold, forested, covered in snow for months at a time, and populated by the kind of tight-knit community where everybody knows everybody and secrets are hard to keep. Dexter has been here for roughly 10 years. He goes by the name Jim Lindsay. He works at a fish and game store run by a man named Fred Jr. He has become a quiet, unremarkable fixture of the town. the kind of person you wave to on the street without really thinking about. He is also dating Angela Bishop, the chief of police of Iron Lake. This is classic Dexter. Even in exile, even supposedly reformed, he gravitates toward law enforcement. He cannot help himself. Whether it is because proximity to the police gives him an advantage in avoiding detection, or because some part of him is drawn to the world he used to inhabit, or simply because Angela is an intelligent and attractive woman who happened to live in the same small town, the pattern persists. The most important change in Dexter's new life is this: he has not killed anyone in 10 years. The dark passenger is still there. It never left. But Dexter has been suppressing it through sheer willpower, daily routine, and the imagined presence of Deborah Morgan, who has replaced Harry as his internal voice. And this version of Deborah is nothing like Harry. Harry's ghost was measured, strategic, and focused on keeping Dexter alive and free. Harry's advice was practical. Do not get caught. Follow the code. Be careful. Deborah's voice is raw, angry, and unforgiving. She calls Dexter out on his bullshit. She reminds him of every person who died because of him. She curses at him. She tells him he is a monster. She does not guide Dexter. She haunts him. The shift from Harry to Deborah as Dexter's internal compass reflects the fundamental change in his psychology. Harry represented the fantasy that Dexter could be managed. Deborah represents the reality that Dexter cannot be redeemed. The catalyst for Dexter's return to killing arrives in the form of Matt Caldwell. Matt is a young man in his 20s, the son of a local businessman, and he is everything that pushes Dexter's buttons. He is arrogant, he is reckless, he is entitled, and he has blood on his hands. Some years earlier, Matt was operating a boat while intoxicated and caused an accident that killed 5 people. 5 innocent people dead because Matt Caldwell was too drunk and too careless to operate a watercraft safely. But Matt's father had money and connections, and Matt walked away from the incident with minimal legal consequences. A slap on the wrist, a fine, some probation. 5 people dead, and Matt Caldwell is still walking around Iron Lake like nothing happened. The specific incident that triggers Dexter's relapse is seemingly minor in the grand scheme of things. Matt shoots a rare white deer that Dexter has been observing in the forest. It is a beautiful animal, and Dexter has developed something resembling an emotional connection to it. Perhaps because watching the deer is one of the few things in his life that brings him anything close to peace. When Matt kills the deer illegally, shooting it out of season, and without a proper tag, something inside Dexter snaps. The dark passenger comes roaring back after 10 years of silence. Dexter kills Matt Caldwell. He dismembers the body. He hides the remains. And just like that, the 10-year streak of abstinence is over. The monster is awake. Matt's father is Kurt Caldwell, and this is where New Blood introduces its primary villain. Kurt is the owner of a beloved truck stop that serves as a hub for the Iron Lake community. He is generous with his money, friendly with his neighbours, active in local events, and universally regarded as one of the finest people in town. Clancy Brown plays Kurt with this beautiful combination of warmth and menace. When Kurt smiles at you, you feel safe. When Kurt offers you a meal at his truck stop, you feel cared for. He is the kind of man that small towns depend on, the local success story who stays and gives back instead of leaving for the big city. But Kurt Caldwell is a serial killer. He has been murdering young women for 25 years. His victims are typically transients, runaways, hitchhikers, young women passing through Iron Lake who have no strong connections and whose disappearances might not be immediately noticed. Kurt lures them with kindness. He offers them food, shelter, a warm place to sleep at his truck stop or at a cabin he owns in the woods. He is patient, he is gentle, he builds trust, and then he hunts them. The killing ritual is specific and horrifying. Kurt takes the women to a cabin. He provides them with food, clean clothes, a a comfortable bed. He gives them a sense of security, and then, when they try to leave, when they walk out of the cabin and into the surrounding forest, Kurt shoots them with a rifle. He hunts them like animals. The pursuit, the fear in their eyes, the moment of the kill. That is what he craves, but it does not end with the killing. Kurt preserves his victims' bodies. He has an underground bunker beneath his property, a meticulously maintained space where the bodies of over 30 women are displayed. They are embalmed, dressed in clean clothes, positioned in lifelike poses, and kept behind glass panels in individual chambers. It looks like a museum, or a collection. Kurt visits this bunker. He walks among the bodies, he talks to them, he tends to them. Whatever emotional void these women fill for Kurt Caldwell, it requires their permanent, physical presence. Among his victims is Molly Park, a true crime podcaster who came to Iron Lake to investigate Matt Caldwell's disappearance, and who also took an interest in the Bay Harbor butcher case. Molly is smart and persistent, exactly the kind of person who might uncover the truth about either Dexter or Kurt. Kurt eliminates her before she can put the pieces together. Her body joins the collection in the underground bunker. The dynamic between Dexter and Kurt in New Blood is unlike anything the franchise has done before. In previous seasons, Dexter's antagonists either did not know he was a killer or discovered it gradually over time. But in Iron Lake, both men quickly develop strong suspicions about each other. Kurt suspects that Jim Lindsay is responsible for Matt's disappearance. Dexter suspects that Kurt is hiding something terrible beneath his folksy exterior. They are two serial killers circling each other in a small town, each maintaining their public persona while privately plotting the other's destruction. Kurt does not go to the police with his suspicions about Dexter. That would invite scrutiny of his own activities. Instead, he wages a quiet, personal campaign. He plants evidence implicating Dexter in Matt's death. He burns down Dexter's cabin. He manipulates the people around Dexter, trying to isolate him and destabilize his carefully constructed life as Jim Lindsay. And then there is Harrison, Dexter's son. The infant who sat in his mother's blood in the season 4 finale, now a teenager, shows up in Iron Lake looking for the father who abandoned him. Harrison Morgan has spent the years since Dexter's disappearance bouncing between foster homes and juvenile facilities. He carries his own darkness, a legacy of the trauma he experienced as an infant and the genetic inheritance of being Dexter Morgan's son. He has violent impulses, he hurts people, and does not always feel bad about it. He has been looking for answers about who he is and where he comes from, and those answers led him to a small town in upstate New York and a man calling himself Jim Lindsay. The father-son dynamic in New Blood is complicated and painful. Dexter is simultaneously overjoyed to see Harrison and terrified of what Harrison might become. He sees the darkness in his son and recognizes it as his own. He wants to protect Harrison from that darkness, but he also wants to connect with him. And the only genuine connection Dexter knows how to make is through the truth of what he is. Kurt Caldwell recognizes an opportunity in Harrison. He befriends the boy. He offers him a job at the truck stop. He plays the role of supportive community elder, the kind of stable male figure that Harrison has never had. It is deeply calculated and deeply disturbing. Kurt is grooming Harrison, building trust and loyalty with Dexter's son as both a weapon against Dexter and as a genuine expression of Kurt's own twisted need to be seen as a good man. Kurt lost his son because of Dexter. Taking Dexter's son as a surrogate is revenge and replacement wrapped in the same package. Harrison, desperate for connection and starved for adult approval, gravitates toward Kurt. He does not know what Kurt really is. He only sees the warmth and the generosity and the attention. It is a painfully realistic depiction of how predators operate. They identify vulnerability. They fill needs. They build dependency. And by the time the truth is revealed, the emotional bonds are already in place. The truth does eventually come out. Dexter and Harrison discover Kurt's underground bunker together. The rows of preserved women behind their glass panels, the carefully maintained dioramas of death, the sheer scale of Kurt's killing, over 30 victims spanning 25 years, laid out in a space that looks like it was designed by someone who wanted to build a monument to his own depravity. Dexter captures Kurt. He brings him to a kill room. He straps Kurt to his own surgical table, surrounded by the tools of Kurt's own trade, and he kills him while Harrison watches. This is the first time Harrison has witnessed Dexter's full ritual. The plastic wrap, the blood slide, the final act, and Harrison's reaction is not horror, it is something closer to pride. He tells Dexter that what Dexter does is a good thing, that Dexter has saved thousands of lives by removing killers from the world. It is a dangerous, intoxicating validation for Dexter, hearing his own son endorse the Dark Passenger. They dispose of Kurt's body together. They burn the evidence, father and son, bonded through murder. For a brief moment, it almost looks like the beginning of something, a passing of the torch. Dexter teaching Harrison the code the way Harry taught Dexter. But New Blood is not that kind of story. New Blood is the story of consequences finally arriving. Angela Bishop, using evidence that Kurt anonymously provided before his death, combined with her own detective work, begins to unravel the truth about Jim Lindsay. She discovers connections to the Bay Harbor butcher case. She contacts Angel Batista in Miami. She learns that the real Jim Lindsay has been dead for years, that the man she's been dating and sleeping beside is someone else entirely, and she arrests Dexter. Dexter sits in a jail cell in the Iron Lake police station. Angel Batista is on his way from Miami. The walls are closing in from every direction, and Dexter, faced with the reality of being caught for the first time in his life, does something that shatters the last remaining justification for everything he has ever done. He kills an innocent man. Sergeant Logan is a good cop, a decent human being. He has been nothing but fair to Dexter throughout his time in Iron Lake. He poses no threat. He fits no criteria of the code. But he stands between Dexter and escape, and Dexter kills him. He grabs Logan through the bars of his cell during a struggle over a gun and snaps his neck. Logan dies immediately. I want to sit with this moment because it is arguably the most important scene in the entire Dexter franchise. For 8 seasons and 10 episodes of New Blood, the show maintained a fiction. The fiction that Dexter Morgan, despite being a serial killer, was fundamentally different from the people he killed. That the code meant something. That there were lines Dexter would not cross. That innocent people were safe around him as long as they did not threaten his secret. Logan's death proves that fiction was always exactly that, a fiction. When it comes down to survival versus morality, Dexter chooses survival. He kills an innocent man because that man is in the way, and in doing so, he becomes indistinguishable from every other murderer he has ever put on his table. Harrison is waiting for Dexter at a pre-arranged meeting point in the forest, near the spot where they killed the white deer at the beginning of the season. Dexter arrives, bloodied and frantic, and tells Harrison they need to run. They need to leave Iron Lake immediately. They can start over somewhere new, together, father and son. Harrison asks what happened. Dexter tells him about Logan, and Harrison's face changes. The pride that was there when they killed Kurt Caldwell together is gone. In its place is something closer to the expression Deborah wore when she first learned the truth. Horror, disappointment, the realization that the person you love is not who you thought they were. Harrison tells Dexter he needs to turn himself in. Dexter refuses. He cannot stop running. He has never been able to stop. The Dark Passenger will not allow it. And Harrison, standing in the snow with his father's rifle in his hands, is faced with a choice that echoes the choice Dexter faced with Brian Moser in Season 1. Do you embrace the darkness, Or do you reject it? Dexter looks at his son. He sees himself reflected in Harrison's eyes. And he says the most honest thing he has said in the entire franchise. Open your eyes and look at what I am. He tells Harrison to use the rifle. He tells him, you are the only one who can do this. Harrison raises the rifle. He takes aim. And he shoots his father through the heart. Dexter Morgan dies in the snow of Iron Lake, New York. His eyes are open. Deborah's voice, which has been his constant internal companion throughout the series, goes silent for the first time. The dark passenger, after decades of feeding and hiding and wearing masks, is finally, permanently, extinguished. It is a gut punch of an ending. Some fans loved it, some fans hated it. But whatever you think of its execution, it accomplishes something that the lumberjack ending of Season 8 never could. It provides genuine, irreversible consequences for the life Dexter Morgan led. He does not escape. He does not start over. He does not fade into anonymity. He dies, shot by his own son, the last victim of a cycle of violence that began in a shipping container decades ago. And the most devastating part is that it was not a villain who brought Dexter down. It was not the FBI or a rival killer or a brilliant detective. It was the simple, unavoidable truth that Dexter Morgan could never stop killing, not even to save himself, not even to save his relationship with his son. The darkness was always going to win. The only question was how much it would cost. The answer, across 8 seasons, a revival, and a lifetime of secrets, was everything. But our journey through Dexter's villains is not quite over. There is one more chapter to cover, a prequel that takes us back to the very beginning, to the earliest days of Dexter Morgan's double life. Let us go back to 1991 and talk about Dexter Original Sin. Season 5 opens in the immediate aftermath of Rita's murder, and it is one of the most emotionally raw stretches of the entire series. Dexter is numb, not the calculated, clinical numbness that has defined his character for 4 seasons. This is something different. This is the kind of numb that comes from genuine devastation. He is sleepwalking through the funeral arrangements, through the police investigation of Rita's death, through the logistics of suddenly being a single father to 3 children. He tells Asta and Cody that their mother died in an accident. He goes through the motions of grief, because that is what people expect, but the motions feel hollow even by Dexter's standards. There is a moment early in the season that I think perfectly encapsulates where Dexter is psychologically. He is standing at a rest stop on the highway, and a man bumps into him rudely. Without thinking, without planning, without any of the careful ritual that defines his process, Dexter follows the man into the bathroom and kills him. It is impulsive, messy, completely out of character, and it scares Dexter. Not because he killed someone, but because he did it wrong. Without the code, without the research, without confirming the target deserved it. He is unraveling, and he knows it. It is in this state that Dexter encounters Lumen Pierce. Dexter has been tracking Boyd Fowler, an animal control officer who seems like a promising target for the code. Fowler has a habit of picking up dead animals from the road, which would not be suspicious except that some of those animals do not exist. Dexter follows the trail and discovers that Fowler has been kidnapping women. When Dexter kills Fowler in what he expects to be a routine operation, he makes an unexpected discovery. There is a woman locked in Fowler's attic. She is alive but barely. Traumatized, feral, covered in bruises, and absolutely terrified of everything. Her name is Lumen Pierce. She was a tourist from Minnesota who was kidnapped by a group of men who systematically raped and tortured her over a period of days or weeks. When they were done with her, she was supposed to be killed and disposed of, like the women before her. But she survived. Boyd Fowler was the group's cleanup man. He was holding her until he could finish the job. Dexter's first instinct is to let Lumen go and clean up his mess. She has seen his face. She can identify him. Keeping her alive is a massive risk, but something stops him Maybe it is the fact that she reminds him of what he has lost. Maybe it is the fact that Harrison is sitting in blood somewhere in his memory, and Lumen is sitting in the aftermath of violence in a way that resonates with that image. Whatever the reason, Dexter does not kill her. And as Lumen recovers and begins to understand what Dexter does, she does not recoil. She does not run. She wants in. She wants revenge on every single man who hurt her. The group that victimized Lumen consists of 5 men. Boyd Fowler was the cleanup and disposal expert. Cole Harmon was a former military man who worked as head of security for the group's leader. Alex Tilden was a dentist. Dan Mendel was involved in the earlier days of the operation, but was murdered by one of the others years before the events of Season 5, disposed of in what was supposed to look like a fishing accident. And the leader, the man who organised and orchestrated all of it, is Jordan Chase. Jordan Chase is the most outwardly respectable villain in the entire Dexter franchise. He is a famous motivational speaker. Think the kind of guy who fills arenas, who has best-selling books and infomercials, and a personal brand built on confidence and self-empowerment. His catchphrase is, "Take it," and his followers repeat it like a mantra. He is wealthy, protected by lawyers and bodyguards, and a wall of public goodwill, and his persona radiates inspiration and positivity. But his real name is Eugene Greer, and underneath the motivational speaker facade, he is the architect of a rape ring that has victimized at least a dozen women over many years. Chase does not typically get his hands dirty in a physical sense. He directs, he watches, he orchestrates. He is the one who selects the victims and plans the operations, but he lets his associates do the actual kidnapping and assault, while he observes and controls. He keeps a small vial of blood around his neck, taken from Emily Birch, the very first woman the group ever targeted. It is his trophy, worn openly, hidden in plain sight as a piece of jewellery. When Chase feels threatened, his signature warning is chilling in its simplicity. Tick, tick, tick. That is the sound of your life running out. Dexter and Lumen begin working their way through the group systematically. They take down Fowler first, obviously, since he was the discovery that started everything. Then Cole Harmon, whom Dexter kills in a hotel room, in a sequence that is complicated by the fact that Jordan Chase himself is staying in the same hotel. Tilden is killed by Lumen personally, which is a significant milestone for her character. It is the first time she takes a life, and it is an act of reclamation. She is taking back power that was stolen from her. The climax of the season involves Chase kidnapping Lumen and bringing her back to the camp where the rapes originally took place. Dexter tracks them there. Chase ties Dexter up and taunts him, telling him there is a kind of greatness in him, but that he is still totally lost. When Jordan opens Dexter's knife roll and inspects his tools, he notices that one pocket is empty. Dexter has hidden a blade. He uses it to stab Chase in the foot, break free, and turn the tables. Lumen kills Jordan Chase by driving a knife into his chest. It is her moment, her closure, her victory. And then something happens that neither Dexter nor Lumen expected. As they're cleaning up the crime scene, Deborah arrives. She's been investigating the vigilante couple all season, tracking a woman she knows only as Number 13, the 13th victim of the Barrel Girl Gang, and the male partner who's been helping her hunt the rapists down. Deborah has watched the rape DVDs that were recovered as evidence. She knows what these men did, and when she arrives at the camp and sees 2 silhouettes behind plastic sheeting, she aims her gun but does not fire. She tells them she understands what happened. She gives them 1 hour to leave. She never sees their faces. This moment is enormous for Deborah's character, and it foreshadows her even more devastating decision in Season 7. Deborah Morgan, a homicide detective who believes in the law, chose to let 2 killers walk free because she believed what they did was justified. It is the first real crack in Deborah's moral foundation, and it will widen into a canyon before the series is over. After Jordan Chase is dead, something remarkable happens to Lumen. her darkness leaves. The rage and the need for vengeance that had been driving her simply evaporates. She tells Dexter that when she watched Jordan's body disappear into the ocean, something shifted inside her. She does not feel the need to kill anymore. The dark passenger is gone. Dexter is heartbroken, but not surprised. He tells Lumen, "Do not be sorry your darkness is gone. I will carry it for you, always. I will keep it with mine." Lumen leaves Miami, and Dexter is alone again, which confirms what he has suspected all along. Other people can heal from trauma. Other people can have their darkness lifted. Dexter cannot. For him, it is permanent. Now let us move on to Season 6, which takes the show in a direction nobody quite expected. But before I get into the villain, I want to set the scene a little, because Season 6 arrives at a very specific point in Dexter's emotional journey. After Lumen left, Dexter is back to being alone. But it is a different kind of alone than before. Before Rita, Dexter's solitude was comfortable. It was his default state. He did not know what he was missing. After Rita's death and Lumen's departure, he knows exactly what he is missing. He has tasted connection. He has tasted partnership. He has felt what it is like to be seen and accepted by another person who understands the darkness. And now it is gone, and the absence is heavier than the loneliness ever was before he knew what companionship felt like. Season 6 finds Dexter in a contemplative mood, questioning things he never questioned before. Is there something beyond the darkness? Is redemption possible for someone like him? Can the code be more than just a survival mechanism? Can it be a path towards something better, something that resembles an actual human life? These are the questions swirling in Dexter's mind when the Doomsday Killer enters his world. And the Doomsday Killer, in his own twisted way, is asking many of the same questions, just with very different answers. We are heading into religious apocalyptic territory now, and the villain this time is a young man who believes he is doing God's work. Travis Marshall is a young man who stages elaborate murder tableau based on scenes from the Book of Revelation. And when I say elaborate, I mean these are some of the most visually grotesque and artistically disturbing crime scenes the show has ever produced. We are talking about actual human bodies assembled into the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, mounted on horses and positioned on a busy Miami street. We're talking about a woman sewn into the wings of an angel and suspended from the ceiling of a greenhouse. We are talking about wormwood, the whore of Babylon, lakes of fire, all of it translated from ancient religious text into real-world murder scenes with real victims. Travis does not appear to be working alone. His apparent partner is Professor James Geller, a former university religious studies instructor who was fired for stealing a rare manuscript from the school's collection. Geller is intense, fanatical, and appears to be the driving force behind the Doomsday tableau. He pushes Travis to go further, to escalate, to make each scene more dramatic and more faithful to the scriptural source material. Their dynamic looks like a master and student relationship, with Geller as the elder authority figure and Travis as the younger, more hesitant follower who occasionally wants to stop but keeps being pulled back in. But here is the twist, and this is one of the most debated reveals in Dexter history. About 2/3 of the way through the season, Dexter discovers Geller's body in a freezer. James Geller has been dead for 3 years. Travis killed him a long time ago. The Geller that Travis has been talking to, taking orders from, and deferring to throughout the season is a hallucination. Travis's dark passenger has manifested as an external figure who gives him instructions and permission to do terrible things. If that sounds familiar, it should, because it directly mirrors Dexter's own relationship with the ghost of Harry Morgan. Throughout the entire series, Dexter sees and converses with a version of his dead father who acts as his moral compass. Harry's ghost does not tell Dexter to kill. He tells Dexter how to kill responsibly. He reminds Dexter of the code. He He warns Dexter when he's about to make a mistake. But the mechanism is the same as Travis and Geller. A dead person who lives inside the killer's mind and shapes his behaviour. The parallel is intentional, and on paper, it is brilliant. In practice, many fans felt the execution was underwhelming because the reveal was telegraphed too early, and the season spent too long maintaining a mystery that most of the audience had already solved. But the thematic idea at its core is strong. Travis Marshall is what happens when a killer's internal voice encourages destruction instead of restraint. Season 6 also features one of Dexter's most meaningful non-villain relationships. Brother Sam is a reformed gang member who became a Christian pastor and now runs an auto body shop that employs other former gang members. He genuinely befriends Dexter, and their conversations about faith, redemption, and the possibility of change are some of the most thoughtful dialogue in the season. When Brother Sam is murdered by one of his former associates, a man named Nick who never forgave Sam for leaving the gang life, Dexter is genuinely devastated. Sam's death sends Dexter into a spiral where he temporarily rejects Harry's ghost and starts hallucinating Brian Moser instead, his dead brother who encourages him to kill without rules. It is a brief but important arc that shows how fragile Dexter's system really is. One meaningful loss, and the entire framework Harry built can come crashing down. The season's climax involves Travis attempting to sacrifice Harrison, Dexter's son, as the lamb, one of the final Revelation tableau. Dexter rescues Harrison and kills Travis on an altar inside an abandoned church. It is a satisfying conclusion to the villain's arc, but the truly seismic moment is what happens immediately after. Deborah walks into the church. She's been working with a therapist to process her complicated feelings about Dexter, feelings that have been building for years and that the therapist has helped her identify as partially romantic in nature, which adds a deeply uncomfortable layer to everything. But what Deborah walks in on has nothing to do with romance. She walks in on Dexter standing over Travis Marshall's body, covered in blood, holding a knife. The plastic sheeting is visible. The kill room is obvious. There is no ambiguity. There is no cover story that could possibly explain what she is seeing. Deborah Morgan, Dexter's sister, his protector, his most loyal family member, now knows the truth. And this single moment, more than any villain or any kill or any investigation, changes the trajectory of the entire series permanently. Everything that happens after this point exists in the shadow of Deborah's knowledge. Her psychology, her moral compass, her relationship with Dexter, her career, all of it is irrevocably altered by walking through that church door. The Doomsday Killer was the catalyst, but the real story of Season 6 was always about the Morgan siblings and the unsustainable secret that had been festering between them for 6 years. Travis Marshall played his part and played it well enough, but what he will ultimately be remembered for is being the villain Dexter was killing when his sister finally saw the truth. And that truth, that awful, liberating, devastating truth, drives everything in Season 7. Which brings us to two of the most fascinating antagonists in the show's run. Season 7 is dense with conflict, and it is driven almost entirely by the fallout from Deborah's discovery. She now knows that her brother is a serial killer. Her initial reaction is visceral. She punches him. She vomits. She cries. She cycles through denial and anger and bargaining in something that looks a lot like the stages of grief. She demands that Dexter move in with her apartment so she can watch him, monitor him, control him. She tries to cure him, approaching his compulsion like an addiction that can be treated with willpower and accountability. And slowly, painfully, over the course of the season, she realizes that Dexter cannot be cured, and she becomes his accomplice instead. Against this backdrop, two antagonists dominate the season. The first is Isaac Serco. Isaac is the head of the Koshka Brotherhood, a Ukrainian organized crime syndicate that operates out of a strip club in Miami called the Foxhole. He is cultured, intelligent, well-dressed, and genuinely dangerous in a way that most Dexter villains aspire to, but few achieve. Isaac does not raise his voice. He does not make threats he cannot follow through on. He simply removes obstacles, usually with a firearm and impeccable aim. His motivation for coming to Miami is deeply personal. Dexter kills a Koshka soldier named Victor Baskov after Victor murders a Miami Metro detective named Mike Anderson. It is a standard code kill. Victor is guilty. He killed a cop. He fits the criteria, but what Dexter does not know, and what makes the kill catastrophically more complicated than expected, is that Victor Baskov was Isaac Serko's lover. When Isaac discovers that Victor is dead, he comes to Miami for one reason and one reason only: revenge. Not for business, not for the Brotherhood, for love. Isaac Serko, the head of a violent criminal empire, is hunting Dexter Morgan because Dexter killed the man he loved. This is what makes Isaac one of the most sympathetic villains in the series. His motivation is pure. It is not greed or power or ideology. It is grief. He loved someone. That person was taken from him, and he wants the person responsible to pay. There is a dignity to Isaac that sets him apart from almost every other antagonist Dexter has faced. He does not play games. He does not leave cryptic messages. He walks into a room, assesses the situation, and acts. As the season progresses, the dynamic between Dexter and Isaac evolves into something unexpected. Mutual respect. Not friendship exactly, but an acknowledgement between two dangerous men that they understand each other. At one point, after their conflict has escalated and then partially de-escalated due to changing circumstances, Isaac actually gives Dexter advice about his budding relationship with Hannah McKay. It is a surreal conversation between two men who were trying to kill each other a week earlier, and it works because both characters have earned that complexity. Isaac is ultimately killed not by Dexter, but by his own organisation. George Novikov, Isaac's lieutenant at the Foxhole, decides that Isaac's personal vendetta against Dexter is bad for business. He hires assassins to take Isaac out. Isaac takes a bullet, and knowing he is dying, asks Dexter to dispose of his body at sea near the coordinates where Victor was dumped. Dexter honours the request. It is a strangely respectful ending for two men who spent the season trying to destroy each other. The second major antagonist of Season 7 is Hannah McKay, and she complicates Dexter's life in an entirely different way. Hannah is a former accomplice of a spree killer named Wayne Randall. As a teenager, she went on a cross-country crime spree with Randall, acting as his partner and enabler. Randall was eventually caught and sent to prison. Hannah was granted immunity in exchange for her testimony and has been living a quiet life in Miami, running a plant nursery and keeping a low profile. But Dexter discovers that Hannah is still killing. Her method is poison. She uses plant-based toxins that are almost impossible to detect through standard toxicology. She killed a woman named Beverly Gray. She killed a counselor. Her body count is modest compared to some of Dexter's other targets, but the pattern is clear. Hannah McKay is a murderer. By the code, Dexter should put her on his table. She fits every criterion. She has killed. She has escaped justice. She will kill again. But Dexter cannot do it, because he falls in love with her. Not the performance of love he maintained with Rita. Not the damaged bonding he experienced with Lumen. This is genuine romantic love. Hannah knows what Dexter is. Dexter knows what Hannah is. And neither of them flinches. For the first time in his life, Dexter is in a relationship where both people see each other completely and accept what they see. Deborah is furious about this, for reasons that are both professional and deeply personal. She has realised through therapy that her feelings for Dexter are more complicated than sisterly love, and watching him fall for a murderer when she herself has been bending every moral principle she has to protect him, is excruciating. Deborah eventually turns Hannah into the police, which damages her relationship with Dexter, but arguably saves what is left of her integrity. But the season's real endgame is not about Isaac or Hannah, it is about Maria Lagerta. Lagerta has never accepted the official story that Dokes was the Bay Harbor butcher. When she finds a blood slide at the church where Travis Marshall was killed, a slide that Dexter accidentally left behind, she begins quietly reinvestigating the case. She follows the trail. She pulls old evidence. She connects dots that nobody else has connected in 5 years. And she reaches the correct conclusion. Dexter Morgan is the Bay Harbor butcher. In the season finale, Lagerta sets a trap. She uses Hector Estrada, one of the men involved in the murder of Dexter's mother, as bait. She waits at a shipping container, gun drawn, expecting to catch Dexter in the act of killing Estrada. And she does. But Deborah arrives too. And in the most devastating decision of her life, Deborah shoots and kills Maria Lagerta to protect Dexter. I need you to sit with that for a second. Deborah Morgan, a lieutenant of Miami Metro Homicide, a woman who became a cop because she believed in the law, who fought for every promotion, who dragged herself through vice and homicide, and every ugly corner of the department because she believed that catching bad guys was the most important thing a person could do with their life. That woman pulled the trigger on her own captain. She murdered Maria Lagerta in a shipping container, the same kind of shipping container where Dexter's trauma began, to save a serial killer. Because that serial killer was her brother. Because she loved him more than she loved the law, more than she loved herself. She collapses on the floor of the shipping container, sobbing over Lagerta's body, and something inside Deborah breaks permanently in that moment. She will never be the same person again. The show knows it. The audience knows it. And Dexter, standing there watching his sister fall apart, covered in the blood of consequences he created, knows it too. This is his doing. All of it. Every shattered piece of Deborah Morgan is a piece he broke. Season 8 is the final season of the original series, and it is, to put it as gently as I can, the most divisive chapter of the Dexter story. Fans and critics have debated its merits for years, and while there are things about it that work beautifully, particularly its emotional core, there are other elements that left a lot of people unsatisfied. The villain is one of those elements, though I think the conversation around him is more nuanced than the internet often allows. The season opens with the introduction of Dr. Evelyn Vogel, a psychologist who specializes in the study of psychopathy. She contacts Dexter because someone has been leaving partial brain specimens on her doorstep, specifically sections scooped from the anterior insular cortex, the region of the brain associated with empathy. These are trophies from a killer the press will eventually dub the brain surgeon. But Vogel's connection to Dexter runs far deeper than a consulting arrangement. She reveals that she worked with Harry Morgan decades earlier, when Harry first realized that young Dexter's dark urges could not simply be suppressed. Vogel was the psychologist who helped Harry develop the code. She analyzed Dexter as a child. She shaped the framework that would govern his entire life. In a very real sense, Doctor. Evelyn Vogel is Dexter's co-creator. Harry built the cage. Vogel designed the blueprint. This makes Vogel one of the most morally complex characters in the series. She knowingly helped train a child to become a functional serial killer. She could have recommended institutionalization. She could have insisted on a different approach. Instead, she channeled Dexter's darkness into something she considered manageable, and she has been watching the results from a distance ever since. Whether that makes her a genius or a monster depends on where you stand, and the show wisely does not try to answer that question for you. The brain surgeon is eventually revealed to be Oliver Saxon, whose real name is Daniel Vogel. He is Evelyn's son. As a child, Daniel drowned his younger brother Richard in a swimming pool. Evelyn and her husband covered it up as an accident and had Daniel placed in a mental health facility in England. He was supposed to remain there permanently. Instead, at age 17, he faked his death in a fire and disappeared into the world under a series of false identities. Daniel, now living as Saxon, is a psychopath who's been killing for years. The brain specimens he sends to his mother are a form of communication. He's telling her that he is alive, that he remembers what she did to him, and that the empathy she spent her career studying is something he was born without. It is a grim family reunion conducted through organs in Tupperware. Saxon kills several people over the course of the season. One of the most significant is Zach Hamilton, a young man that Dexter had been mentoring as a kind of protege, teaching him a version of the code in an attempt to prevent another killer from developing without guardrails. Saxon murders Zach, cutting that mentorship arc short in a way that feels pointed, almost like Saxon is specifically dismantling the things Dexter cares about. And then Saxon kills Evelyn Vogel, his own mother. He slits her throat while Dexter watches helplessly via a live video feed. It is brutal, personal, and designed to cause maximum emotional pain to both Dexter and the audience. Vogel, for all her moral ambiguity, genuinely loved Dexter in her own clinical way. Her death removes another pillar from the shrinking support structure that has kept Dexter functional for 8 seasons. But the true tragedy of season 8 is not the brain surgeon. It is what happens to Deborah. Deborah has been spiraling since she killed LaGuerta. She is drinking heavily, taking pills, making reckless decisions, and pushing away everyone who tries to help. She has joined a private investigation firm because she can no longer stand being at Miami Metro, where she murdered her captain in cold blood. The guilt is eating her alive. Deborah Morgan, who was once the moral heart of the show, has been hollowed out by the choices she made to protect her brother. In the finale, Saxon shoots Deborah during a confrontation. The wound is to her abdomen. She is rushed to the hospital, and initially, the doctors are optimistic. It looks like she will recover. The surgery goes well. She's awake and alert and talking, and then she suffers a stroke.